Sounds good.
So yeah, I think the Sweet 16 is done now. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't start till the 27th.
Yeah. Which I was wondering why they did that, but it's because um the women's like they started the women late. Usually they
Are they
run it.
also playing in Indiana?
I have no idea. I thought I didn't honestly look at it because they called all the regions different too, so I don't even know like um where they play.
I'm looking right now.
I know they called that the bubble, so I know they're all in one location too. They don't have like the typical four regions where everybody plays and then
Women's final, they're in San Antonio.
oh okay.
2021 Final Four is San Antonio.
Well, that's probably easier for them, honestly. There's probably more arenas and stuff. Well, because how far is San Antonio from like Houston and Dallas?
If I had to guess, a couple hours. So it says about 15, 20 minutes by car, 20 to 30 by bus, an hour by bike.
Oh, so that yeah, I guess that works out for them then because they
So
can
that's
use
way closer. Oh, yeah.
it
And then
be,
Dallas has got to be right there, too.
yeah, probably within an hour. What was that? San Antonio to Houston's 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah. Yeah, 4 hours, Dallas to San Antonio. So
Oh,
that's a little bit of a stretch because that's like the guys for their tournament. Bloomington, Indianapolis, it's like an hour and a half, 2 hours between each of the arenas.
yeah,
And they're all staying in Indy. So they got to drive, bus an hour and a half out there every day.
yeah. But I'm gonna make sure I have everything up here. Honestly, I'm gonna quick pull up my bracket just as kind of my best bracket, I guess. Bracket challenge. I'm in like the
I ended up not doing one at all.
at one point I was in the top like I think my bracket was ranked like 7,200 something, which isn't terrible given that there's millions of them.
Yeah, there's a lot.
What am I at now? My best bracket is 1,900,000. 87% correct, which by like academic standards is pretty good, but for this not so
Yeah,
much.
that's very true. Just looking at some of those matchups, and
Yeah,
Oral Roberts, they could probably beat Arkansas.
yeah. Um,
I really think Loyola is gonna take it all.
yeah,
Sister Jean, man,
I have them. I have them in the final four.
I really think that they're gonna run it all. Just watching them play, them and Gonzaga, if they don't have to meet before.
Which they're not in the same region.
So it's gonna be those two is my
So
pick. What about Syracuse?
they're in the it'd be Syracuse and Loyola, I think. In the same hold on, let me check. No, Loyola's in the Midwest. Oh yeah, with
So,
Syracuse. So it'd be Loyola Syracuse for a Final Four matchup, and then Michigan
Gonzaga,
Gonzaga.
100%. Maybe US, dude. That yet again is
Otherwise
Oregon
Baylor
USC
Baylor
too.
too.
Oregon, man, I can't believe they played that well for having 62 days off. You'd think
I
that they'd be
know.
rusty, but they came out there and just pounded them.
Well, I think that's a big thing too with why it's such a fucked year is because of COVID. Because you have teams like Duke who were on the cusp of making the tournament, but they had COVID issues right at the end of the year, and I know they missed a handful of games during the year because of COVID. So, um, which I mean, they didn't have a great year, so it's not to say that they would have made a big run, but at the same time, look at all these other teams that have made runs that either it's been 30, 40 years since they've had a tournament win, or like Aberdeen Christian, I think, had their first tournament win in history. Um, so I mean, it's all cool stuff to see. Obviously, if you're betting on stuff,
Not a good betting year.
not a
Not a
good
good betting year.
unless you're picking a lot of upsets, then you're making bank.
But even there wasn't a ton of upsets. You know what I mean? Like still
Yeah,
looking at it, you still got a 1-2, 1-5-4, 1-5, 3-2. You got the 12, 15, 11, 2 11s. That's pretty much your. So you got four upset teams that made it all the way this far.
yeah. Which I feel like usually every year there's like one Cinderella team that kind of makes a push to the end, and this year there's four. So
Right. And that's another thing too, going how you mentioned about average teams or smaller schools putting up a good fight. Part of that, I think, is because with this whole COVID protocol thing, they all have to play by the same rules. So schools with more money aren't allowed to have an advantage compared to the schools that don't because of they're all underneath that COVID protocol where you're not allowed to leave to go places, all that type of thing. And then the fan aspect, you got the same amount of fans coming from both schools. The underdogs, they're going to be rooting hard.
yeah, and that's
Like
a
I
big thing
know,
too. I realized that like for like the lower seeded teams, I feel like have more fans, or at least they're louder.
well,
Like,
it's like Pat McAfee was saying yesterday. He went to the West Virginia Syracuse game, and he said those fans were the loudest he's heard in a long time, and that's just a small handful of people. You know what I mean?
hmm
Imagine if half the school was allowed to go.
yeah, yeah, even like I I guess one advantage or I guess disadvantage for some of these teams is because they're playing in like you said Bloomington, Butler University, they're playing in Lucas Oil right now too, where usually nobody plays there until the Final Four. That's where the Final Four 2 games are played are usually played in Lucas Oil, or I shouldn't say in Lucas Oil, but wherever like is hosting. Um, and then which I feel like is a disadvantage because of how big the arena is. I'd rather, for especially with COVID and stuff, and with limited spectators, I feel like you want a smaller arena because it gives whoever's louder, whoever has more fans, there the advantage. If you only have 2,000 people in a 70,000 person stadium, it's going to be pretty quiet. You could have a couple echoes here and there, but that's about it.
Yeah, as far as the smaller building, louder atmosphere, more lively, but yet on that big stage, you're playing on the same exact court of where the championship's going to go down. So it's also that benefit of getting used to playing on that type of court compared to a smaller, different venue.
That's true. Yeah. Although I know they switch out the floors though too, which I don't know. I'm sure that all the floors are exactly the same because it just sounds sketch if they have different floors.
At all three different places. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder, is the Sweet 16, are they finally all back in Indy now?
Um, I want to say it's just the final four that.
Just because looking at the game times, they're spread. 4 teams play Saturday, they're all spread out, and 4 teams play Sunday, and they're all spread out times.
Yeah,
So that makes me wonder if it's all in Indy now.
it could be. I honestly hadn't looked, but also because
Doesn't
they're on
say.
because they're on 4 different networks too. They're on what TBS, TNT, CBS, and True TV. I think are the 4 networks that they're on.
Are they
And
still
then
all 4 of them for the final or for the?
well, that's what I'm saying is if that could be why they're spread out is for TV time because they don't want games to overlap. If there's a game on TBS and then the next game's on TNT, if they overlap, you're going to start losing viewers on both sides, which I'm sure a
So it's
network
just down
one.
to the two now. I just looked. CBS has the first two games on Saturday, Oregon State and Loyola, and then they got Villanova and Baylor, and then it switches over to TBS for Oral Roberts, and then Syracuse and Houston. Then I'm going to check if the same is Sunday, or does it go to the other two networks? Nope, it is repeats. So it's
Okay.
down to CBS and TBS.
Okay.
Yep.
That, that makes sense then. Does it say that they're in Indy or are they still in their same four
For
regions?
whatever reason, it just says Midwest region, and it doesn't say. Hold on, let me click on the tickets thing and see if it pulls up an arena. It's looking like it's Lucas Oil. Nope, Banker's Life. So Oregon State and Loyola Chicago are playing in Banker's Life. So they must be using all the courts still. Yep, they definitely are.
Yeah, at least through the Elite Eight, because usually you play.
Hinkle Fieldhouse is Baylor Villanova. So yeah, all of them are still in play yet. So it'd
Okay.
probably be just the Final Four due to probably COVID that they'll finally all be there, or maybe even the Elite Eight since there'd only be 2 games a day.
Yeah. Yeah, that's usually how they do it. But again, with COVID protocol and stuff, they might do it differently. But um, do- yeah, we can kind of. I'm gonna. We can kind of go through, break down some of the up, or I guess some of the games that have happened, and then um, with the Sweet 16 finalized and stuff too, you can kind of go game by game and see how it's gonna look.
Yeah, is there anything in particular that you want to touch on as far as past games? I mean,
I mean, like the games that they're expected that were expected to go one way. It's like okay, like Gonzaga in the first round, they won 98-55 because
oh yeah,
they're undefeated against the 16 seed. So it's like okay, there's not much to talk about there. Um,
people are saying how they did the schedules this year kind of was a little bit skewed as the fact of like Ohio State had to play Oral Roberts second round, and Oral Roberts, they're a good team.
yeah,
Like their record only 17-10, but like they're still a great team. That's just like Loyola Chicago. They're 25-4 and they're an 8 seed. Like they deserve more respect than that.
well, it depends on the conference you come from too. Because look
Well,
at
they're the
like
Missouri Valley Conference.
yeah,
They lost to Wisconsin. I'm talking about Loyola. They lost to Wisconsin, they lost to Duke, and they lost to some other Drake, and then some other school. So it's like they lost to good schools,
yeah.
and they beat some good schools too.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I mean, even look at like the Big Ten, for instance, for football, where you don't really see, unless you're Ohio State, you don't really see an appearance from like Wisconsin in like the college football playoff because of the market of the Big Ten, where teams like if you're from the SEC or the ACC, even a little bit, just because that's where um, Clemson's from, you don't really have the market to play a lot of good teams. And I'm assuming basketball has is able to do it a little bit better just because they play roughly 30 games a year. I think is kind of the median mark that teams kind of hit. Um, Obviously in a year that they don't miss any games due to COVID, but in 30 games, you can't play your conference over and over and over and over. I know they play a home
They did
game.
that this year, though, for the
Yeah,
most part.
but usually you play, I think at least one, you play one game at home and one game away against like everybody on your side of the conference. Just because, well,
Right.
the Big Ten's split now too, because there's like I think eight to 10 teams in the East and the West of the or the Big Ten. Um, yeah, but I feel like that's where you can get some of these bigger matchups during the year. Like I'm trying to think who Wisconsin played earlier in the year that was outside of the Big Ten. It was like a higher ranked matchup. I can't remember exactly, but
Let me
otherwise
take a look here.
they played like Iowa, which was a bigger matchup. Illinois, which it's kind of funny how the freaking Big Ten had two of the 4 1 seeds. I think they had 9 teams in total in the tournament, and there's only one left now.
Yeah, that's crazy, dude. We didn't play nobody ranked outside the Big Ten. Oh, Louisville.
Oh yeah, that was the big game that they.
And we beat them 85-48.
Yeah, yeah, that was the game I was thinking of. That was earlier in the year where it was kind of like, oh, Wisconsin looks decent this year, but um, but yeah, I didn't realize this until now. The Creighton and then UCSB, um, what is that? University of California, something. But
Who Creighton played yesterday?
no, I'm looking back at the first round where Creighton beat. They're a 5 and they beat the 12 63-62. So that was almost an
Probably
upset.
University of Santa Barbara.
The Guachos. That's the
Yep, University of California, Santa Barbara.
okay.
I thought so. Once you said the UCSB, I was like, well, that's University of California. And then,
Yeah.
yep, Santa Barbara.
Um, I'm just kind of going down the left side here. Obviously, well, I don't know what's going on with Virginia. I think what didn't Virginia, weren't they the 1 seed that lost to the 16 seed 2 years back?
Yep, and then they also the year prior to that, they got upset by, I want to say that was Loyola Chicago to go to the Final Four.
Okay.
So that was like 3 years ago or 4 years ago when Loyola made it, when their superstar player, who I think should go number 1 in the draft, no doubt.
Otherwise,
Cameron Krutwig, the Wigster, dude's a beast. And he's got a 6 stash.
it's kind of interesting to see because Oregon got a free win in the first round because VCU had no contest because they had COVID issues, and then they come on and put up 95 against Iowa. But also at the same time, like as good as Iowa is, yes, they were a 2 seed. Yes, they're a good team. You look at Luca Garza, it's basically one of those teams where if he has a good night, they win. If he doesn't have a good night, they lose. And I'm pretty sure looking at his stats at the
Dude, he
pool,
had 34 points when he
yeah,
lost.
he balled out and they still lost. So that
The
just goes to show,
strategy, yeah, dude. Did you watch the game at all?
yeah, a little bit.
They
Um,
let him open. They let Garza do his thing. They left him open, and they locked down everybody else. They said, Garza, one person he can't beat. He can't beat us by himself. So let him score, and if we lock everything else down, and that's exactly what they did. And they came out with a dub.
yeah. Well, yeah, because he went. I'm looking at it right now. He went 14 of 20, um, 36 minutes. So he only didn't play for 6 minutes of the game, or no, 4 minutes of the game, which is impressive. But yeah, and then 3 other starters had 0 points.
Yep.
0 for 4, 0 for 3, 0 for 1. So like you said, yeah, they just shut. They're just like he's not gonna come out and score 70, 80 points by himself. He can't unless he goes for 3 pointers only and fucking shoots 90%. But
Which that's not Garza.
no.
I wonder if he's going to return next year. since all seniors can come back and play again.
I could see him moving, especially with as good of a year as he had. I could see him just going where the money is and jumping into
But what
that
if he's not in the
league.
top five? Do you come back and play and guarantee win Big Ten Player of the Year for the third straight year in a row, and your draft stock goes up?
I guess that's an option, but then you also take the chance of injury and not being able to continue your career at all. But um, I don't know. That's obviously a tough decision whenever it comes to that for really any athlete and on any sport at any level. Is do I stay where I'm at and keep going until people finally notice me, or well, I mean he's noticed, but like you said, to make his draft stock go up. But yeah, I don't know. That's always a tough decision because there's some people who stay and it works out for them, and there's some people who stay and either have a shit year or they battle injuries or whatever it looks like, and then either they don't get the call at all or they drop down. So yeah, I feel like but also that's why you have like an agent or just some kind of resource higher up than your knowledge of the game to help you make those decisions.
I
Especially because
just feel like
all these guys are younger than us.
if you love the sport, you don't do it for the money. You do it because you love the ball.
Yeah,
That money will come. Obviously, if you take care of yourself, freak accidents do happen, freak injuries do happen. But how many do you really see in basketball? Not plenty, dude. Most of their injuries happen in the off season,
yeah, that's
like
true.
working out after they haven't been working out. And it's like college kids are on it all the time. Like they got good training facilities and access to good doctors and all that stuff. So you think if you stick to the program, what's worked for so far, do it again, draft stock goes up. But yet again, like we both said, you have a bad year, your stock goes down, and who knows?
hmm But at the same time, like as much as you want to be in that like a number one pick or top five, top 10 pick in any sport, um, at the same time, if you get a roster spot, period, you made it at the professional level. Like
Right, but nothing's guaranteed once you get to the professional level, though.
ex- well,
Like you
exactly.
get
That's
hurt, they could buy you out, and you could never sniff another game
yeah.
or
Which
another
is
practice, even.
why I kind of like you said, for those who love the game for what it is and not worried about the money, that's where that comes in as just stay and play another year or live in the now. Because, like, yeah, at that next level, you could be a number one pick or you could be, I mean, Tom Brady, is probably one of the most well known picks, pick 199. Never was probably never really going to have a chance, but Bledsoe got hurt and he got his shot. That's all it takes to get a shot in the NFL. But
Well, that's
also
all it
that's all
takes
it
to make
takes
it.
to lose
Yep.
to lose
And
your
that
shot.
exactly. That's all it takes to make it to the pros, and that's all it takes to lose it from the pros. Is everybody has their window. What do you do in that little window of time? Is it good or is it bad?
And I guess one example that and we've talked about him before that's kind of an awesome example is Derrick Rose with how he's bounced back multiple times, been on multiple teams, and he's still obviously he's lost his hop a little bit because his knees are fucking so many surgeries removed. But um, yeah, that's one of those guys where he could have got injured the first time he blew out his knee or knees or whatever, and he's like, I'm done. I have enough money. I'm gonna hang it up. But at the same time, he's like, he didn't look at it as, oh, I have enough money now. I don't need to play anymore. He looks at it as, I need basketball. Like I want to play. Um, he's just the first person that comes to mind. Obviously, there's probably dozens that have played that way. Like NFL side, Brett Favre, fucking Iron Man, 200 some consecutive starts, broken thumbs, fucking rolled ankles, all that shit back in the day, and he never missed a snap. So you look at every sport, there's somebody down the road, whether it's either now or if not recent or back before we were born, of people that stuck it out that holy shit, that dude should be in a wheelchair, but he's out there playing football. So
Yeah, just look at the Stanley Cup playoffs every single year. Once a team gets eliminated, they release all their whole injury report. Half the guys have fucking cracked ribs, punctured spleens, broken bones, and you never hear a word from them.
no,
You know, because it's part of the job. It's what you
yeah.
get paid to do.
What goes to show again is they can wear. I feel on hockey they can wear their injuries a little better if they don't talk about them. Obviously, if they're concerned about their body and their well being, they'd be like, oh, like I'm fucked up, and then they go get evaluated and they're like, all right, next guy up,
And
and
that could be your spot gone.
exactly. But if they're like, all right, I'm playing at 99% instead of 100, nobody's gonna notice, then they keep going.
But they notice. People can tell if they've seen you go 100% and seen you ball out, and then people can tell.
Yeah,
So I feel like personally, especially with the game of hockey, which I'm very knowledgeable about, that's the one thing that you can see right away is in the first 10 minutes of the game is which team's got it tonight. Because some guy, especially this year, they're playing back-to-back games, 20 games, 27 games in 30 days. Like, it's a grind this year for all the NHL teams, and you can tell it when they're tired. Like, look at my boys, the Flyers, dude. They got pumped 9-0. They were tired, gassed. There's nothing you can do.
yeah,
Like, you just got to go out there and try your best, even though you don't got it, and move to the next.
yeah. It's crazy too, especially like you said this year, kind of like um with the NHL with how they're playing. I feel like they play a decent amount as it is, given especially how grueling the sport is with how often they play a week. Because like for instance, like looking at the NFL, they play once a week, and then you look at NHL. Obviously, there's shifts, so you're not on the field or you're not on the ice as much as you're on the field if you're so
Well, it
you can
depends.
play more in that
Some
case. But
defensemen play like 34, 35 minutes, which is a lot.
yeah, well, in that case, yeah, that's closer to like an NFL player. But
Because
but like
who plays the most for an NFL player? Do you think center and the quarterback?
yeah, because they both touch the ball every single play.
So those two probably play the most, and normally they only got time of possession of like 15 to 25 minutes. Usually, it's probably what it is.
Somewhere in there,
So they're on the
if their
field for
if their
a little
defense is
bit of
having a
time.
good game, sometimes you'll see over 30 minutes that that the offense will have the ball. But at the same time, if the offense has the ball a lot, chances are they're up, and chances are they're running it a lot, which means the quarterback isn't under as much pressure and stress and isn't getting tired because he just turns and keeps handing it off. Um, but yeah, otherwise, I was thinking defensively, was Justin Simmons for the Broncos hasn't missed a snap for 3 straight years on
Yeah,
defense.
dude, that just used to be like what's his name, Jalen Ramsey, I think. He played so many years of never missing a snap, or like 99.9% of all snaps. And that's insanity, dude. Can you just imagine being out there going against a wide receiver, running 100-meter dash every single play to try to keep up with these guys
It's fucking
and have
nuts.
the gas to do it all game long?
Especially because of the fact that the receiver knows where they're going and you don't.
Yep.
Well, and especially for Jalen Ramsey because he's on the Rams now, so he probably gets to take off more snaps because he has better talents around him. But when he was on the Jags, he was the face of that defense, if not the face of that whole team, and especially with how bad their offense was, he was if he's played 99% of the snaps, he's probably on the field for 30, 40 minutes a game
Yeah.
because their offense is not good. Three and out, all right, back on the field.
Yeah. Speaking of the NFL, real quick, here where AB might end up if he doesn't resign in Tampa,
No, I didn't.
Seattle.
I could see that.
Supposedly they've been reaching out uh, to him. And then I guess teams that were still interested in Deshaun Watson before all the stuff started coming out. I guess those teams are still interested.
Yeah, I saw that. I think it was like yesterday, 2 days ago. It's like in light of all the allegations, these teams are still interested. It's like, I mean,
Yeah,
good for that. Good for them to
Ian
like stick it
Rappaport
out.
reported that yesterday, and he was asked if the Bears are still in the running for a quarterback after they signed Dalton, and people think that they might trade Dalton with the 3 1s that they originally offered for Russell Wilson for Deshaun Watson down in Texas.
That's a good trade.
Because they just signed Tyrod Taylor, so it'd be the Dalton and the Taylor show, and you get 3 first-round picks.
Yeah. Otherwise, I know if the Bears decide to go to the draft, they're looking at Trey Lance to. I can't remember who they said they're going to
How'd the
trade up.
last quarterback from North Dakota turn out? I
Not
mean,
great,
I love the guy, but can't stay healthy.
no.
When you can't stay healthy, it's tough to do your job.
But at the same time, maybe that's why Carson Wentz went to the Colts.
And I think that's a better fit for him too.
It's a better fit
He's got a line
to
where he's
protect
not
him,
gonna fucking die every year.
and I feel like playing in a dome too on turf, it's easier. It takes all the elements out of it.
Right, Philly, it's cold city. It gets cold there, snowy.
Yeah, and it's a
They're
ruthless,
rough,
ruthless.
ruthless fans, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, ruthless.
Uh,
Probably the toughest fan base, the most ruthless, probably in all of sports, is Philly fans.
yeah,
Regardless of what sport, they are nasty.
yeah.
But I love it.
Um, yeah. I guess um, kind of back on topic here.
Oh yeah,
Um,
quick point that I had to make. How we were talking about how college basketball teams only playing teams in their conference and then going to the tournament, and then you finally start to play some of the big dogs. Kind of the same thing in the NHL, where you're only playing a handful of teams throughout the whole season, and then you get to the playoffs and you get to start playing all of these teams that you haven't seen all year long. Like, you're in for upsets, and that's exactly what we've kind of seen here with the basketball tournament here, and that's why I think there's been so many slash maybe some of the seeds that were higher seeds shouldn't have been as high as they were due to the fact that people just didn't get to see them.
yeah, and a lot of these games were lopsided too. Like a lot of the upsets are closer, but some of the higher games are pretty lopsided. I mean, like 98-55, even like 72-56. That's a 16-point game. Really, anything above 10-point games. That's especially in college basketball where the shot clock is 30 seconds. Really, in theory, you get 2 possessions. So it's 20-minute halves. That means there's roughly 40 possessions per half, which is it's not a lot comparing it to the NBA. But of course, the NBA plays a little longer and the shot clock is less, so you get a lot more back and forth and higher scoring games. Um, which I mean, especially now in the NBA, basically, if you score less than 100, you had a bad offensive night. Whereas in college, if you hit 100, you're balling out that game.
Oh yeah,
But
I'd say probably 80 is that mark where if you can hit 80 points, more than likely you're going to win.
yeah, unless you're Iowa because they scored 80 and lost 90-5 to the 80. But um,
Right, right.
but like I was saying, with the a lot, kind of going off of what you said about teams that they play a lot of. They play a lot in their conference, and then once they get to tournaments at the end of the year like this, they're playing teams that they haven't seen all year. Um, and you get a lot more lopsided games because you're it's a lot of adjusting, and it's a matter of all right, who adjusts first and who stays ahead because, like you said, they haven't played each other, so they just go off of film. But at the same time, film only gets you so far. You have to like play that team physically to be able to understand how they function, how fast they play. Because you get, especially because with how like we were talking about Oregon with how fast they are going up and down the court. Was that who you were talking about?
Yeah, they came out fast.
That you like you could see that watching film. It's like, oh, those guys are fast, but then when you play them, you're like, holy fuck, these guys are fast.
Yeah, but you also look at like Loyola. They run maybe 2 offensive plays, and they keep going over and over and over and over again. And they're like I swear they have like the fundamentals from like when basketball first started. Like watching them play defense, they're all on a string. They all move together, nice light. Like they are strictly technique, strictly basics, basics, basics. And I guess if you're that good at the basics, no one can stop you.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that's where that's where it's effective in some cases is a lot of these teams try to get more flashy plays, try to like do stuff you never see. It's like, oh, I've never seen that move before. And then people are like, whoa, how did I defend that? But at the same time, if you're proficient at the basics while people are focused on getting good at the flashy stuff, then yeah, you're going to beat good teams because they don't, I mean, obviously they understand fundamentals, but they're not, like you said, as good. They don't play as fluid. And like you said, I guess I noticed that with Loyola, how it seems fluid. There's not very they don't turn over the ball very often. They're
Nope. And
just
everything runs through the wig.
hmm
He's one of the best big guys I've seen play. Like his hook is he gets the ball in the paint and it's in every time. Or a foul and he's going to the line.
yeah. I can't remember. Oh, I get one thing I want or you had brought up before that it reminded me talking about how um you play the same teams in your conference all year and then you go to these bigger teams and that you haven't played. It reminded me like back in like high school how we um we just play the same teams in our conference. If not, if it teams in the next conference over that like we're close. But then once we get to the playoffs, we get piss pounded like 40-0 by these teams that we only play once a year in the playoffs or once every couple years if like it lines up that way. So in that case, that's where you get these lower seeded teams where well, I shouldn't even say lower seeded teams because we'd go like 11-0 in our conference and just piss pound everybody 50-60 and then our first game in the playoffs we lose 40-0. So it's just
When you
completely
play,
lopsided
yep.
like that. Um which is crazy too with how because we're all Division 6 football, but these programs are far more developed and advanced with either just having the right kids in the area to or even being like a public school where it's open enrollment, kind of like a Kimberly, for instance. Um, you never know what you're going up against at that point because some schools that's all they live and breed is a certain sport, whether they're D7 or D1. Um, that's all they care about is that one sport.
Well, and just the more kids you have at your school, the better the competition's going to be for those top teams.
Oh yeah, for sure. Um, you want to jump into the 16 and kind of
Yeah, we can run that down.
all right. I'll just kind of go how I see it on the left side of the screen here. So, Gonzaga Creighton. Um, pull up this game. Oh, nice! It gives me stats right here too. Um, kind of looking at it, it's pretty lopsided as far as like every statistic on here. Which is, I mean, I guess expected when you're what are they 24-0,
28.
28-0. But again, that's the thing I love about this tournament is it's any given day.
Well, that's with any sport. Any sport, any day. Every game's a new game. Sometimes you show up and you got it, and sometimes you just don't, man. Sometimes outside things affect what you're doing.
Mhm. Um.
But yeah, as far as this matchup, I don't see how anybody's going to stop Timmy, big white boy for
Yeah.
Gonzaga. Everything it seems like runs through him. Um, yeah, just watching him, man, he just dominates. It's like he's always in the right position. I don't know a lot about basketball, but just watching how it goes, seems like he's just always in the right position to make the big play when they need one,
Mhm.
and he's a guaranteed two.
Yeah. He's that. Yeah, like you said, he's that guy, and you could literally not have athletic bone in your body and watch any kind of game, whether it's NFL, football, hockey, and you just watch for 5 minutes, and you could have no idea who anybody is, and you could ask them, "Who do you think the best player is out there?" And they point them out, and they're probably going to be right as far as who might be the best person on that team at that time, because it's not hard to tell watching a sport who's open more, who's more efficient, who's better defensively. Um, it's just easy to. It's always easy to tell, and people gravitate towards those kind of people too. Like you, I don't know anybody else on Gonzaga. They're probably all phenomenal players, but yeah, the one I think of is the one that you had just mentioned, just because he's
Timmy
the
or
go-to guy.
Kispert too. Kispert's their leading scorer. He's another white guy on their squad. He's shoots the three ball very well.
Um,
Like looking at some of their team stats here, though, the one area where Creighton might give Gonzaga trouble is Creighton only does allow on average 60 points a game. Um, that is a lot better of a defense than Gonzaga has faced
yeah,
in the last probably month.
yeah. I mean, looking at like the defensive stats, because like defensive rebounds, Gonzaga averages 27, and um, Creighton averages 25 and a half, which that's pretty close and both very high numbers. Um, I guess so. The one stat that I see that Gonzaga has worse, but it makes sense, is turnovers. Creighton averages 11 turnovers a game. Gonzaga averages 12. But at the same time, when you're scoring, when you have that many possessions and you're scoring that much, you're going to have more turnovers because you have the ball that much more. So that one kind of makes sense. But um,
Yeah, I only way I see an upset happening here is if Gonzaga can't hit any buckets. Otherwise,
yeah,
they're too dominant. They average 93 points a game.
which is nuts.
That is very yep. And hey, how cool would that be to see undefeated team go through and run the whole thing
Yeah,
in Indiana, where the last time that happened was in like 1971.
yeah.
Like
It's
that'd be cool.
um, yeah. So that's kind of it for that game. This next one is probably the one that I'm most excited about. USC Oregon. Um, just because as we talked about earlier, both teams seem like they're just super quick up and down the court. Like, I mean, obviously they're all athletes, so everybody looks fast, but these guys just stick out more. Especially yesterday, what was it, USC and Kansas, which Kansas isn't a bad team. They've never been a bad team. They they're always throwing their name in the hat every single year, kind of like a Duke or North Carolina. Um, and they beat them 85-51. So that goes to show that.
Did you
So,
get a chance to watch that game at all?
I think I watched like the last 10 minutes of it.
Dude, 10 minutes into the game, you could tell it was going to be what it was. The wheels have fell off for Kansas. They couldn't make a bucket, and USC was just hammering the three ball, dude, like hammering threes. And that's honestly, I'm picking SC in this one over Oregon just due to that fact of they got scores everywhere in Oregon. Watching them play, it seems like they got one, two, three guys where SC was hitting it from everywhere. And looking at some of the team stats, Oregon gives up 80 points a game. and SC only gives up 53. So that's a huge difference
Mm-hmm.
right there.
I'm looking at it too. Is I guess an advantage of Oregon in one way is free throw shooting, which it's funny seeing how in the NBA your good free throw shooters are around 85-90%. But in college, if you're above 70% as a team, that's good. So that's kind of funny. It's just how there's that big jump, but I guess that's one spot because Oregon's at 70, almost 71%, and USC is only at 64. But if it's going to be that lopsided of a game, a handful of free throws aren't going to make that much of a difference. Um, but yeah, defensively, it seems like that's where USC has the advantage here. As far as like rebounds, even they got the rebound advantage by quite a bit. Um, blocks, 5.5 blocks a game. That's huge because basically you're 5 blocks a game, and you're basically taking 10 points off the um off the
Yep.
board.
And that's why their points against are is only 53.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. That's good. It's hard to say with that game. I don't know. Like I said, it's probably the one I'm most excited to watch, just because I feel like it's going to be quick or in a game of fast and quick. Who's going to win?
Yeah, for sure. I just think it's going to be SC. SC, I think, should take that one.
All right. So that puts then Gonzaga against USC in the Elite Eight up in the for the West final. Um, moving down next, Michigan, Florida State. Um, I don't know. I mean, I watched the Florida State game yesterday, and it basically came down to one guy. Let's pull up his stats. He had a career game. I think he scored like 27 points.
MJ Walker.
It might have been um, Schwartz or Emright or no.
Memory.
Or no, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong team. Florida State. Um, it might have been Walker because
He's
Walker
their
scored.
guard.
Walker scored. Shoot, Polite or no, it was Polite because Polite scored 22. That's who I'm talking. Yeah, that's who it is. He scored 22. Um, and looking at the rest of the team, their starters all scored less than 10. So it goes, and I mean, given they won by what is it, 18 points, um, which is a decent margin. But if you're gonna at this point in the tournament, you need more than one guy in double digits at this point to make it. So either he's gonna have to play again and score 22 and get a little help, or they're gonna have to distribute the ball a little bit more and not have one bank on one guy having a great game.
Well, and just talking about that sweet spot number of 80, like we'd mentioned before, Florida State, they haven't hit 80 points in the last month. Michigan, every game that they've won, besides against Maryland, they hit 79. But every game that they've won in the last month, they've hit 80. Every time they've lost, it's been under. That's kind of, if Michigan can hit 80, I think they got it. No problem. And for all the people who said Big Ten basketball sucks, fuck you. Still got a number one seed still rolling here. And yeah, I'm looking to see Michigan, the Wolverines, move on to the next round.
Yeah, I agree with that one. Just like I said, I was watching the Florida State game last night, and it all ran through one guy. So if I feel like this game is going to be a lot like what Oregon did to Iowa. If they can shut down whoever's going to have their best game of the night, whether it's going to be that same guy again trying to put up 20 plus points. Um, yeah, I feel like that one's going to be pretty lopsided with Michigan moving on. Um, Next, UCLA, Alabama. Um, UCLA they've always been a historical team as far as the tournament. I think it's said they have 20 Sweet 16 appearances, which is pretty good. I can't remember if that what that was all time. I don't think it was first, but I think it's like top 5 all time for Sweet 16 appearances. Um, and obviously a lot of historical names that have come out of UCLA, so they've just always been a good program. And that's one thing that's interesting to see this year is Alabama throw their
Who
name into
knew
the
they had a
hat.
basketball team?
Yeah, especially given that last year they had I think 16 wins total. I think this year they had 16 wins just in the conference. Um, so yeah, whatever, and it's the same coach too. It's not like they had a coaching change this year. It's the same coach as last year. Uh, but it's just a matter of all the things coming together, whether it's new offensive or defensive schemes, or they signed a amazing player. Um, but yeah, it's kind of nice. Or as much as it's annoying to see Alabama dominate in football every year, it's nice to see a team that's good at more than one sport. Um, Even kind of like Wisconsin, for instance, they always I can't. What is it? They have like was it 20 consecutive years of the football team getting a bowl game and the basketball team making the tournament, something like that.
Well, and you also look at other Wisconsin sports. Girls hockey is always number 1 or number 2 in the country.
Yeah, they just won,
Boys
didn't they?
hockey, they won. They won the Big Ten championship. Boys did. I don't know
No,
about the women.
the girls. I think they just won the hockey.
The whole thing.
Yeah, let me look.
I don't think they had it this early.
Women's hockey. They're playing right now. Um,
Yeah, I think this is their
yeah,
tournament.
it took overtime 2 days ago. It took overtime, but Wisconsin secures its sixth women's hockey NCAA title.
There you go. So you have Wisconsin women's hockey, which is best in them, Minnesota, top teams in the country every single year. And Badgers hockey making a run this year. Got potential Hobie Baker Award winner Cole Caulfield on the squad. He's from Stevens Point. Drafted by the Canadians, 7th round last year. Hopefully he can win the Hobie. They do play Friday against Bemidji State. I think it's like at 1:30. And yeah, hopefully they can make it to the Frozen Four and win a title for the Badgers.
Yeah, when's the last time that happened? When men's and women's won on both sides?
Let's look. I think the last time the guys won, I think was 08.
Well, I'm just saying in general, like in all of college, where both the men's and women's hockey program won the title.
Well, whenever the men won last is probably when the women won last. 06
Okay.
is when the guys last won, and then I'm just gonna check. And the women, in 2006, Wisconsin Badgers became the first team outside the state of Minnesota to win the women's Frozen Four championship. So yeah, so ever since 06, the Badgers have dominated in women's hockey, and the men's hockey team, ever since they got some new coaches a couple years ago and some new kids coming in, they turned that program around. So it's nice to see here. And yeah, 06 looks like men's and women's hockey team won.
It isn't freaking yeah. Well, Minnesota is called the hockey state for a region, but isn't University of Minnesota, Bemidji State, and then like Duluth always fucking really good every year?
Oh yeah, and you have Mankato, which is also very good.
St. Cloud.
St. Cloud also very good, and then you have there's a lot of great hockey players and a lot of great college hockey in the state of Minnesota. That is for sure. But you also look, their state hockey championship for high school draws as much people as the Minnesota Wild do to their games. So what does that have to say?
Yeah.
when you're selling out 40,000 attendance arenas for a high school hockey championship game, because half the kids that you're seeing play are going to end up probably in the NHL or at least at that D1 level. It's phenomenal to watch. The last kid that came out of Minnesota, his name's Casey Middlestad. He actually went straight from high school to the NHL, and he plays for the Buffalo Sabres. So shout out Minnesota for hockey.
Yeah. Not for basketball though.
Football, they started to turn it on though.
Yeah. Last 2 years they looked better. What was it? Or they're ranked top 10. They're like ranked 8th at one point, weren't they?
Yeah, and then 2 years ago, I think they were like, they almost made it to the playoff.
Yeah, they missed it. I think they lost like one big game at the end of the year that ended up knocking them down. But
Yeah,
yeah, kind of looking at this. Did you watch the Maryland Alabama game at all yesterday?
I did not. I didn't get a chance to check that out.
Unreal, freaking. Um, Alabama couldn't miss a three. They went 16. They made 16 3-pointers, 48% from three. They went on like I think a 17-0 run at one point during the game.
Wow.
10 for 10 free throws, 39 to 19 rebounds. Yeah, they looked really good, which is again weird that we're talking about Alabama basketball, but which in this case too, I think that they'd beat UCLA. It's a 2 versus an 11, which I feel like once you're at this point, once you're in the Sweet 16,
Numbers
basically,
don't matter.
yeah, you can erase the seeds at this point. Unless you're Gonzaga, obviously they're kind of in a league of
In a
their
league
own
of their own.
right
Yep.
now, yeah. But yeah, I don't know, just looking at all the stats of this Alabama UCLA game, Alabama is just especially the 3-point shot. That's where they're at their best. Both teams are over 70% free throw shooting, so if it comes down to a foul game, that'll be interesting to see basically who's going to be more perfect from the free throw line.
And they both score about the same amount of points and give up about the same amount of points. So it should be a good game. I am going to take UCLA on this one just because I feel like Alabama's been so hot as of late. Eventually, they got to hit a cool streak.
Yeah.
At some point, they're going to hit a cool streak. And if they can battle back from that and get back to that spot, they're going to win, no doubt. But I just think UCLA at some point is going to weather that storm, and it's going to be a close one there at the end.
I think it's definitely going to be high scoring. I could see it being like an 80-something to 90-something game for sure.
Well, let's see what the over under is. 145 points is what they think is going to be scored in the game.
So that's 60s, 70s.
Which is about what they average, about scoring and giving up. So, yeah, I mean, Alabama gets hot like they did yesterday.
Yeah, I think if they shoot the three ball like I saw them shoot it yesterday, 16 3-pointers. That's NBA numbers.
That's game over.
Yeah,
in college.
So yeah, that'll be another good game too. So
then that'd be
Michigan and
Bama or
UCLA for the East Region Championship.
Which is nuts. So it's going to be Michigan probably versus Gonzaga to go up to the ship. Baylor, they're going to beat Villanova.
Baylor, no,
that's kind of a no-brainer.
The way they piss-pounded Wisconsin, especially because Villanova has always been, I feel like, a 3-point
The Badgers
smoked.
The Badgers beat Villanova a handful of times over the course of.
Yeah.
Let me just take a look here because I just want to make sure I'm saying the correct information here.
And that's where looking at like Baylor, because they had two different points of the year where they had to sit out for COVID. One for sure, which in some cases I feel like can hurt an organization at any sport if they have COVID issues.
Yeah, it
But
looks like Villanova also missed about a month. They missed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Whoa, dang. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 games Villanova missed this year due to COVID.
hmm, so both both
And
both
some
of
of them
these
were
teams then.
against Connecticut, which was ranked. They had a couple tough games that were, yeah, wow. I didn't think they missed that many. And then they lost to Georgetown in the championship for the
Yeah,
conference. So I just feel like they're 2 beat down right now, and Baylor's just got it going.
yeah. Well, then and that goes to show right there is because Baylor's missed a lot of their season, and so is Villanova. So both teams can't use that excuse against each other, um, as really any team can, because it can happen to anybody. As much as it sucks, a team could have could play a full season like Gonzaga and not miss a game and go 28-0, and then there's teams that miss half their season, but it's just the cards fall where they do. So you can't use that as an excuse anymore.
Right.
But yeah, I feel like that's where Baylor is. Instead of having that long season of fatigue, they're fresh. They just look so, especially watching them against Wisconsin, they look like mid-season, like prime, which is probably where they are now because of how the amount of games they played. They haven't played the full season where they're getting fatigued and have a couple guys maybe with like sprained ankles or something where that for like a full season. So I feel like either Baylor or Michigan is going to be the team that gives Gonzaga a run for their money, either in the championship or the Final Four. So, um, yeah, I feel like that one for Baylor definitely. They just I don't know. I don't looking at the stats. I don't really see anything that is concerning. Um, right around 70% free throw, which is again good. 41% from for three from 3 point range, which is pretty damn good.
Good. Yep.
Looks like they turn over the ball more, but again, when you have more offensive possessions, you're going to turn over the ball more.
Right. It's just the way it goes. Yeah.
So, so yeah, Baylor for that one. Now this one, can the Cinderella story keep going? Or Roberts in Arkansas?
I think the Cinderella's going to die here. I mean, props to Oral Roberts for making it this far. I just don't see how, from March 7th, their last 5 games, they've won by a combined total of 3, 6, 9, 11, 12 points over the last 5 games they've won by. All nail biters, clinchers. And then you look at Arkansas, they've blown some teams out. 85-68, 70-64. They can score. So I think this one's just going to come down to defense, and Arkansas's got a little bit better defense here. So unless Oral Roberts can put up 80 points, I don't see them having a shot in this one.
No, yeah, I agree. I guess the one thing that's interesting is Oral Roberts is 38.5% from 3 point, which is pretty good, and then 82% at the free throw line. So they get to the line a lot and they convert a lot.
They do. They do. And they also average about 35 rebounds a game.
Hmm.
But looking at Arkansas, they are averaging about 40 rebounds a game. But both teams do have the same field goal percentage at 45%. So
Yeah. Um, yeah, I definitely agree with the advantage to Arkansas on this one. I feel like it's not going to be a blowout. I feel like it's going to be less than 10 points that it's decided by. But um, I feel like Arkansas is going to probably dominate the entire game, and then Oral Roberts might like make a little run at the end and make it interesting. But yeah, I think Arkansas is probably going to win it.
yeah, again at the same time, man, I'm just looking at some of their leaders. Man, Oral Roberts got a handful of guys that put up 20 average. rebound for 10. And man, I think this could be a little bit closer of a game than I originally thought here.
Well, I mean, look at the two teams they beat though. They beat Ohio State, put up 75. They beat Florida, put up 81. So they know how to score.
So they're putting up 70 at least.
Looks like, I mean, they gave up 78 against Florida, so obviously their defense needs to play a little better.
But they average giving up 75, so that's right around what they do give up.
Yeah. Well, especially how you said they average last 5 games has been
They've
decided
won
by
by a
12.
combined 12 points.
Yeah, and looking at it, they've won by 3, won by 3. So yeah, they're winning by 1 possession every time.
But that's all it takes to win, though.
Yeah, but like you said, you can only go on that long of a streak for so long before you finally snap. The other team figures you out, or the other team flips it and they win by 1 possession because you had one more turnover than you should have, or
Oh,
something.
exactly. And all that means is winning by that little margin is they made one less mistake.
Exactly.
So if that flips the other way, they could be done already.
Yeah, but
But props to them for making it this far, dude.
yeah.
Good for Oral Roberts.
So that puts Baylor, Arkansas for the South Championship.
And I can see Arkansas beating them there.
Yeah, that'll be a good game. Um, Next, down in the Midwest, we have Loyola, Chicago, Oregon State. Um, Honestly, props to Oregon State. I haven't heard shit from them all year, but every time I watch, I'm like, oh, Oregon State won again. Oh, Oregon State won again.
Go
Um,
Beavers.
yeah. But like you said, Loyola, Chicago, they just look like they have the fundamentals. Like it just looks simple. They're not doing flashy shit. They run, like you said, they run like 2 offensive plays. They get the
Yeah,
ball
two,
down the court.
three offensive plays, and it's the same every time. You know exactly where the ball is going, and the team still can't fucking stop them.
Hmm.
That's dominance. Where you
Um,
know where the ball's going, and you still can't stop it.
yeah, yeah. They like just looking at like most of their numbers. Nothing's really like. I mean, for instance, Oregon State is better for rebounds, better for offensive rebounds, um, better for blocks,
Blocks.
better turnovers.
Yep.
So like, which are all important statistics on the defensive side.
But
But then
Loyola does shoot 50% team field
exactly,
goal percentage.
that's what I'm looking at. That's the big kicker. That most teams at this point are like low to mid 40s, and Loyola is just efficient at 50%.
Which half the buckets they're putting up are dropping.
Yeah. So
So with the way that they control the game, they have more offensive possession, which in turn, them making 50% of their shots are going to win the ball game.
hmm I could see this one being a blowout, honestly. Loyola winning it. Um,
Yeah, I could see by about 10.
which I mean, Oregon State though they beat Tennessee, a 5 seed, by 14, and then beat Oklahoma State by 10,
But
which
they
was
only beat
impressive.
Colorado by 2.
Which was impressive because they beat Cade Cunningham, who's I'm gonna
He's
look at
supposed
that.
to go number 1.
Yeah, I'm looking at it and see how he did that game. Yeah, he put up 24, but he only went 6 for 20 from the field, which isn't great. That's like what 35% roughly.
Roughly.
Which I mean, yeah, you put up 24 points, but you lost. So if you would have made a couple more
That's
baskets,
like Garza putting up 34 and you still lost.
yeah.
One
Well,
man can't do it
that's the big thing looking at a team for Oklahoma
unless you're
State.
the Wigster. The
Yeah.
Wigster, man. Him and that Timmy, man. The two guys that literally dominate the play every single time. It's like Frank the Tank back in the day. That
Hmm.
guy, you just get in the ball and he just is so big and can move. He just controls. He's like a point guard almost.
Yeah, back when Wisconsin was more than one dimension. They had fucking Kaminsky in the paint, and then Sam Decker was great behind the 3-point line. Um, so yeah, Loyola Chicago for that one, and then we got our last matchup: Syracuse Houston. Um, Again, Houston's one of those teams that they're always a high seed. I don't know what conference they're in, but I feel like they always win their conference. It's probably a smaller D1 conference. Um, and looking at the two teams they played, which again, making it to the tournament is obviously a
They're in the American
accomplishment.
Athletic Conference, the AAC.
Okay.
Wichita State's also in that conference. Um, Memphis, UCF, USF, Tulsa. So yeah, not really any huge schools.
No. And then looking at who Houston's played so far in the tournament as well, they've played Cleveland State, who's a 15 seed, and then they played Rutgers,
Rutgers.
who they barely beat. Which Rutgers, I, I, I'm trying to think who I saw. Oh, they probably play Wisconsin because Rutgers is a Big Ten team.
Yep.
But I mean, I don't know. Yeah, they barely beat Rutgers. I'm gonna look at the stats and see like Rutgers actually shot better. Rutgers shot 44% and Houston shot 37. 40 Rutgers had a better 3-point percentage, better free throws. Um, looks like Houston had more rebounds, so it looks like they only won the game because they had an extra possession or two.
Yeah, and they averaged 41 rebounds a game, which is a lot.
Yeah. So, um, yeah, I guess going back into it, I feel like Syracuse, they've um, let me look here. They're pretty even on field goal percentage, 44% apiece, 35% from 3-pointer. Syracuse is 78% from the free throw line, which is pretty good. Um, I mean,
Yeah.
statistically, they're pretty even, but for whatever reason, it just seems like Syracuse is on a better run. What from watching them play than Houston. The only Houston game I watched was a little bit of the Rutgers game. Um,
I've watched them in the opening round, and they're a great team. They are a great team. Houston's a good team. Um, only thing I could see them having trouble with Syracuse was for Syracuse to pull that upset is how hot is Buddy Boeheim going to stay? Um, first half, I believe, last game, he went 0 for 8. In the second half, he was a walking 3. Um, Pat McAfee talked about it on his show, how he watched him at halftime come out and got used to the arena and the different, and he said the kid couldn't miss. He couldn't miss. And what do you do when your dad's your coach? You know everything. I mean, he's one of the greatest college basketball coaches probably of all time. Um, so he's got the knowledge and he's got the ability to do it. It's
mhm.
if they can hit their shots and stay hot, Syracuse is gonna dump them. But if not, I feel like Houston's gonna pull it out in a close one. If it's a close game, Houston wins. Otherwise, Syracuse blow out.
Yeah, looking at it too for the last game, Syracuse against West Virginia. Um, they had 3 guys in double digits for points, which is huge. It goes to the if it, I'd be concerned if it was like uh, Boeheim was 25, and then everybody else is like 4, 6, 0. But all their starters scored a bucket, which is important. If you have any zeros, and you win, that's always or that's probably a good thing. If you won and you have a starter with 0, but it goes to show again that Syracuse won a close game, but they had 4 guys double digits, which goes to show that they have to do that again. So that instead of one guy getting hot, they have to have a couple guys get hot. So like you said, if they can have a couple guys in double digits, it's a blowout. If it's a close game because a couple guys are struggling, then Houston will probably win a close one.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
So then that puts Syracuse or Houston against Loyola Chicago. So
In either way, I think Loyola Chicago is just too much of a machine for either one of those schools to handle. It's going to be Loyola Chicago coming out of into the Final Four for sure.
So going back here, I'm looking at the final. What would be the final four? So Gonzaga USC, or no,
Yep.
yeah, Gonzaga, USC, probably
Michigan, Bama.
Michigan, Bama. So Gonzaga, USC, kind of thinking about that matchup.
That'd be a good game.
Yeah.
Both teams can score. They're both fast. Where I think the game is separated is Gonzaga's defense.
Hmm.
They give up way less points, and they seem to be a lot bigger, taller. They can lock it down. So I can see Gonzaga moving on to the Final Four, kind of, which is to be expected as well.
Yeah. And then going down to the east here, it would be Alabama, Michigan, which I feel like is going to be a really good game. It's going to be basically Michigan trying to shut down Alabama's 3-point shooting. I feel like
And they
that's
got to stop Dickinson.
I feel like that's going to be a big. I feel like that's going to be a lot like the Syracuse Houston game, where if it's close, Michigan wins, but if Alabama gets going on the three
It's
point,
over.
it's over.
Yep. I agree with that. I can agree with that.
Um, I don't know. It's kind of tough though. It's just like boom. This is the one I'm leaning towards. I
I
don't
got
know.
Michigan, Big Ten,
Yeah,
baby.
I would. Yeah, I gotta stick with the Big Ten. Go Michigan, just because Alabama's had a nice streak with their 3-point run, but eventually they're going to
Got to
beat
cool
a
off.
better defensive team. Yeah, so
Yep.
so that puts
And
Michigan.
The Big Ten is known for keeping teams to low points.
Yeah, so that
And
puts
if you can't, you
Michigan,
lose.
Gonzaga on one side. Over here we got would be Baylor and either Arkansas or Oral Roberts. I know we were kind of on the fence with that one, just re-looking at the statistics. Um, I guess either way, I see Baylor coming out of it, whether they play Arkansas or Oral Roberts, just because, like I said, they miss a decent amount of games. They look like they're in mid-season form because they've only played a little over half their games this year. Um, I feel like Oral Roberts would be a better match against Baylor than Arkansas, but like I said, either way, I feel like Baylor would win it.
I feel like I can agree with what you said. I think Oral Roberts would be a better matchup for Baylor to keep it a close game. Um, I do think, though, if it's Arkansas coming out of the gate, I think they just got too much gas for Baylor. They're a little quicker. Baylor plays a little more slow, controlling, like how they did against the Badgers, which they did a great job, and they beat them, obviously. But that game would have been completely different if the Badgers would have made their shots, if they would have turned the ball over how they did. They probably would have won because Baylor didn't play that good.
No, they didn't.
And that's where I can see them tripping up due to the whole COVID thing. They're still stumbling over their feet trying to get out of the gates to go. And these other teams, Arkansas and Oral Roberts, they're firing on all cylinders right now. They're going. So
Hmm.
I feel like that's going to be the end of Baylor's. Whoever they play, I think that's going to be the end for them.
So it's either Arkansas or Oral Roberts going to the
Who
Final Four.
yes, I do. I am pretty. I can say that pretty confidently with how I feel about that.
All right. So going to the bottom to see who would play either of those two, Loyola Chicago, and either Syracuse by a blowout or Houston by a nail biter. Um, so I and I that's kind of I'm kind of feel the same way about this as I did with Baylor. No matter who Loyola Chicago plays, I feel like they're moving on to the Final Four. Again, they look. I wouldn't say flawless, just because no team is flawless. Everybody
Right.
has an Achilles heel, whether it's the free throw line or turnovers or their whatever. But just Loyola Chicago everything looks even. Like it's not lopsided where they're like, oh, they're really good 3-point shooters, but if they don't hit as many 3 points, they're going to lose. They just look consistent throughout entirely.
Yep.
Where if one side's lacking, another side's going to step up, whether it's the offense or the defense. Which at this point is important. Obviously, it looks cool to put up a shit ton of 3-pointers, but if you can't do that for one game, you're gonna lose. So,
Right.
um,
Yeah, I will agree with you on that. Loyola Chicago just well-oiled machine right now. Kurt Wig, the Wig, he's just balling out. And only thing I could see them having maybe a slip up is if Syracuse can get past and they stay hot. Like if they can rip the threes, um, Loyola Chicago would have a tough time just due to how they play the game. They only got their couple set plays, which they mainly go the pick and roll, run it down low, and the Wig either puts it up or he passes it back door and the guy lays it up. They don't really take too many three opportunities where Syracuse, all their guys can fire from everywhere. And if they're hitting them, that's going to be pretty tough for Loyola. Loyola Chicago at that point would have to change their game and play to Syracuse's game. And if that happens, just Loyola Chicago, if they have to play some other team style of game, it's over for them.
Mm-hmm.
They're just too good at what they do where I don't think that they can adjust to play outside of that this quick, at least.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, so yeah, either Loyola or Syracuse then for the Final Four on the bottom side.
Which, if we
Um,
had to guess and everything stays the same, that'd be Loyola Chicago coming out.
yeah. So Final Four then we have Michigan, Gonzaga on one side. Um, I have two one seeds against each other. Obviously, like statistics lean towards Gonzaga, but again, once you get to the final, I mean, again, like you said, Sweet 16 right now, you can basically erase the seeds. They don't really mean anything anymore. Um, and even in the Final Four, again, the seeds even mean even less at that point. Um, I think if Michigan can hold Gonzaga under 75, I
Yeah, but they average 92.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. If Michigan
It's a big ask.
if Michigan gives up 80, they're I don't see Michigan scoring 80 that many games in a row. First and second round they scored 82, 86, which is good. I could see them putting up 80 again against Florida State. I feel like Alabama's going to kind of slow them down a little bit, and then Gonzaga's going to slow them down even more. So Michigan Gonzaga is going to be, I feel like, a close game if Michigan's defense can keep them under 80, then they have a chance. Um, that's why I say 75. Like 75 is even kind of pushing it. Where kind of looking at all the games, any team, any basically unless you're scoring 100, you have to score 100 to beat a team that's giving up 80. And I don't see Michigan scoring 100. So I'm leaning towards Gonzaga in that matchup, just because again Michigan looks like they're hot right now, and eventually they're gonna slow down. I'd say if they're just crawling away at games, but they look consistent throughout, then eventually they're gonna pop off, whether that's in the Elite Eight or the Final Four. But it just looks like they're kind of coming out strong, and they're after Florida State, they're gonna slow down a little bit.
Yeah. Only way I could see Michigan having a chance is getting Gonzaga's top guys in foul trouble early, making them have to sit on the bench and maybe try to get a little bit of a lead going. Um, Other than that, they got no shot.
Yeah.
Gonzaga is just too good. Um, they use everyone where Michigan's kind of ran through Dickinson. That's kind of the Big Ten basketball, though. You kind of got the one horse that you feed, and he kind of carries you. Maybe you have a double-headed monster, but that only gets you so far. You need five guys that can ball out, and
Yeah.
that's what Gonzaga's got. And they even got guys on the bench that step in and drop 10. So I
Well,
just think
looking at
they're too good. They have too good and too much manpower consistently to just go all the time. Where Michigan, that Big Ten style basketball is slower possessions. That Gonzaga, they're going to outrun them and they're going to gas them and they're just going to torch them.
hmm
I bet Gonzaga maybe can put up a hundo.
yeah. Um, like you said, the one way Michigan have a chance is getting Gonzaga into foul trouble. Looking at the Oklahoma game, they only had 6 points on their bench. So it, otherwise it was all their starters that put up the 87 points. So yeah, out of the 87, 81 of them were from their starters, which
And
is
you
good.
right, which you got to get them in trouble to have to put some of that pressure on the other guys
Mhm.
because, like you
But also you
said,
think about it. But also you think about it. Gonzaga's bench, they probably have guys who could start for some of these other teams.
well, some of these other teams also have guys that could probably go start somewhere else too. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
at that D1 level, guys are kind of interchangeable. It's kind of more chemistry at that point.
yeah. So yeah, basically
That's going to be Gonzaga, though.
Gonzaga in the championship, and then
Yeah.
on the other side, um,
We had Loyola Chicago
Loyola Chicago.
versus you had Baylor, and then I either have Arkansas or Oral Roberts.
So trying to think on that one.
And I got Loyola Chicago again. Well-oiled machine, like I said, unless their wheels come falling off and another team dictates the play to them. That's the only way I can see them losing until they get to Gonzaga, which would be a very good game because they both kind of play that same plays, same, you know what we're doing. We're just going to come straight at you and we're going to work harder.
Hmm.
But it'd be nice to
Yeah,
see Timmy versus the Wigster one
yeah.
on one.
That'd be a good championship. Gonzaga, Loyola, Chicago. Um,
And Sister Jean, dude, she's got something working for him.
yeah. Um, yeah. No, like we were talking about before, it'd be awesome to see Gonzaga be the first team since the '70s to go
And I think they're
undefeated
going
and
to
win
do
it.
it. I
And
think
I
they're
think
going to
they
do
are
it.
too. I mean, obviously, any given game, heck, Gonzaga could shit the bed against Creighton, and they don't even
Right.
make it past the Sweet
It's
16.
possible. Right.
So that, and which would completely throw kind of our predictions sideways and it change everything at least from the left side there. But a team that puts up damn near 100 every game doesn't just fall apart. A game for them falling apart, oh, we only put up 80. You know
Right.
what I mean? So yeah, they just look too good this year. Obviously undefeated for a reason. And Loyola Chicago, obviously, it puts them one step closer. They made it to the Final Four a couple years ago to make it to the championship this year. Just get that extra experience at the coaching level. Obviously, guys come in and out of college every couple of years, especially if some do 1 year and they're done. You have a lot of turnover. So
Well, then, like we said too, like if you're the Wigster, Loyola, you make it to the ship, you lose to Gonzaga. Do you come back? Try to run it back?
I guess it would depend on the other side if who Gonzaga and these other teams have coming back.
Well, because that's the thing. Like I was reading, they have this weird year rule thing that they made. Kids can transfer. Kids can still do all of this stuff and still have that year of eligibility. So who's to say seniors aren't going to transfer all to the same school and create a powerhouse? Be like, hey, bud, let's transfer to the same school and let's run it. Like that's totally possible, which is in a sense kind of going to screw everything up going forward
Hmm.
because it's only going to be for 1 year. And then you're going to have to use scholarships on those kids, which other kids aren't going to get scholarships. And you're kind of fucking up your program moving forward if something like that were to happen.
Yeah, but also it's nice to see the players finally having that control at the collegiate level. Even though they aren't getting paid, it seems like they're finally getting more leeway. They're getting a little bit more say in what goes on as far as, um,
Well, they're the
again,
cash cow for these universities, you
yeah,
know?
as far as
They're the ones that are,
transferring and wanting things a certain way and things like that. It used to be they buy into the system, and however the university and the coaching staff and the team that wants to use them, they use them. But now it's getting to the point where the players like, no, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do, and it's turned to the point where the coaches kind of let these kids run the team.
well, you almost have to in that sense due to the fact that the kids are the ones going to classes, showing up to practice, playing in these games, and these coaches are making 5, 6 figures,
Hmm.
really not doing a whole bunch, kind of coaches aren't really all they are is I feel like the recipe for a great coach is understanding how to communicate with each and every person on your team because everybody is different. Like some screaming at people doesn't work for everyone. Like you can't just scream at everyone and expect to get the same result. Like figuring out that aspect and then also figuring out how everybody's role fits in together to make one whole picture. And
Yeah,
everybody's got to be okay with that. I mean, you see teams that downfall when people want the ball and they're not getting the ball. Like look at the NBA, dude, for so long. Harden and Westbrook and all the guys that try to come together who are individuals, me guys. And when you have too many of those, it doesn't work because there's not
hmm
enough pieces of the pie for everyone.
yeah. That's what like looking at the Nets. Like the Nets are obviously the favorite to win the East and even the championship this
Oh,
year.
and ever since they picked up Blake Griffin, that's their glue piece right there.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, I don't know. It's you see some super teams like Golden State a couple years ago where they're just untouchable.
Well, they were untouchable once they got KD.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even
No,
they won a
because
championship
LeBron came
before.
back and yeah, because LeBron beat him with KD and came back. So that's right.
Yeah.
Which
Um.
is by far probably the greatest playoffs performance I've ever seen.
Yeah. Down 3-1.
To the arguably greatest team of all time.
Mhm. Um.
Because that was the team that set the wins record, wasn't it?
Yeah. There's 72 wins or whatever.
But that's LeBron, man. You can never count that motherfucker out. No matter how much people hate him and how much people dislike him when it comes to the playoffs, he is there and he is ready to go.
Yeah.
And
Which is
AD sitting out all these games, dude, he's going to be healthy coming back for the playoffs. So it's like they're going to be ready. I mean, it's going to be them in Brooklyn probably the way that it's shaping up so far. But like Utah,
yeah.
they're pretty good too. I mean,
Philadelphia.
Philly, the Bucks, if they can figure their shit out.
Yeah.
I mean,
I almost like the Bucks this year better than previous years where they've been first across the entire league. They look really good and they get in the playoffs
and
because they
choke.
just they think they're too good and they use too much energy in the regular season. This year they're just kind of flying under the radar. They're like third in the East right now, so they're just kind of they're obviously a playoff team, but nobody's really talking about them.
Well, and that's another thing with the NBA that I think that's kind of a joke is how you have I don't know how many teams there are, 32,
30.
30. So say there's 10 super teams, right? 10 teams every single year that you're just like, yep, they're going to the playoffs no matter what. And then you have these top teams like the Bucks always was number one. So we'd play the eighth seed who's a fucking crock of shit, pot, like crush them. And then you move to the second round where you actually got to play someone. You ain't ready for that.
No.
And that's what's happened to the Bucks over and over again. And I mean, Giannis has got to. I mean, he's got to take some notes from LeBron, man. He's got to learn how to shoot.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't spend your whole career playing in the paint. I mean, those days are over.
Yeah.
You got to learn how to shoot.
Especially free throw. His free throw has been
Awful.
awful.
He's 1 for 6 probably every time.
Yeah. Um, but I was gonna say it's funny as I get older, like I have more of an appreciation for like LeBron James and like Tom Brady. Whereas when I was younger, I fucking couldn't stand them because it's just like that's all you saw. Well, especially because when you're younger, you have your favorite teams, and that's all you want to see is them win. You're like, they beat my team, fuck him. Like, but now it's to the point where it's just like all you can do is appreciate it because these are once in a lifetime athletes where and it's like shit I get to be alive and watch these guys in their prime like
Yep.
instead of hating on it learn to appreciate it because it might be
Who
enough.
knows when you're going to see the next one, if
Yeah,
you're ever going to see another athlete like that in your lifetime. I
exactly.
mean, like hockey right now is very special because you had Crosby and Ovechkin, which I hate. Like I love Crosby, but I hate him at the same time just because he's the flyer killer. He's so good, but like you have McDavid now, who is Crosby plus some, and then you have some of these young kids like I know you're not huge like into knowing a lot about like the hockey guys and like different teams,
Hmm.
guys and shit that they have, but like you have a couple young guys who are defensemen, like Quinn Hughes, he plays for Vancouver, and then you have another young defenseman, Cale Makar, who plays for the Avalanche, and then you also have Nathan McKinnon, who's a very young guy. He plays for the Avalanche. It's like you have about 10 guys right now who are generational in the game of hockey that are going to be legends. And it's just very cool to see that it's all coming together in this one time period where, like, back in the day it was for football when you had fucking Marino, Young, all those guys playing, Jerry Rice, Moss, Carter, the league was stacked full of Hall of Famers, Dawkins, Polamalu, Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, Strahan. The league was stacked full of these generational players. And now in the NFL, that's kind of fallen off a little bit. I mean, Rodgers, well, Breeze is done. That's one guy who's generational. He's
Hmm.
done. So Brady's still playing. Rodgers, I mean, Russell, you can kind of say has a little bit. Mahomes is still too young yet to really say he's one of the greatest of all time because who knows, say he never makes it to another Super Bowl ever again.
Hmm.
I mean, is that a great team? Is he one of the greatest ever because he went to back-to-back Super Bowls his first, like there's a lot to debate when it comes to greatest of all time because there's so many different ways you can look at it, whether it's just championships or what they actually mean for their teams. It's like most valuable player, Rodgers, hands down, is the most valuable player in the league, regardless of the season, because you've seen the Packers without him. They
Yeah.
can't do a damn thing, and all these other teams have won without their quarterbacks.
Hmm.
So that just goes to show that you need Aaron Rodgers, or basically the Packers are a joke.
Yeah. And like you said too, it's kind of starting to fall off as far as the amount of generational athletes because once like Tom Brady retires, like you said, Drew Brees is gone, Rodgers retires. All of a sudden, Russell Wilson becomes the vet, and he isn't even that old. Like he's
And
like
he
five.
isn't, and he's won one Super Bowl.
Yeah, he's 5 year. He's like 5 years younger than all the guys that are like close to retirement age now. So he's really going to have that like legendary vet status for probably a good 5 to 8 years before maybe Mahomes, Watson, if he finally gets on a team where he can win. Um, Even like I'm trying to think of other like Tua, if he has a good second year and kind of comes up. Just a
Yeah.
lot of these younger guys, they still have 3 to 5 years to prove that kind of status.
Well, and then look at the
Obviously,
quarterbacks you got coming in this year too.
yeah,
Lawrence, Fields, some other guy who's I forgot what the
Zach
name of the other.
Wilson.
Yeah, who they say is the best out of them all.
Hmm.
Like, who knows how good these guys are going to be? I mean, I personally feel like Justin Fields is going to be the best out of them all, just due to watching him. I've watched him play for those 2 years that he played at Ohio State, and watching his Netflix thing for his QB1 that he was on, and just seeing how he, even through that, how you could see he progressed playing the game of football and becoming a quarterback. He's like a mix between Rodgers and Cam Newton. Like, he can zing the ball, he can throw it perfectly, and he's got that big style runner like Cam Newton. I mean, that's the way the NFL is going, is dual threat quarterbacks. You got to be able to run now. I mean,
Hmm.
Josh Allen, prime example. He's like the new prototype of a quarterback that is going to be you're going to see moving forward.
Yeah, and it's funny that for as big as Josh Allen is, he understands I got to be fast. I got to be able to run because the size he is 10 years ago would just be a guy like a pocket passer, and he just stands in the pocket and just gunslings. But now, like you said, you have to be a dual threat where you can't. He's the size of a guy that should just stand in the pocket. He's a bigger bodied guy, but like you said, he has to be able to run. And um, even a lot of the quarterbacks that are coming up right now, like Trevor Lawrence, he's not. he's kind of that middle point. He's not very big, but he's not a
But he
smaller
can
guy.
run.
But he can run. Trey Lance from North Dakota State, he's smaller. Zach Wilson from BYU, he's a smaller guy.
Justin Fields, he can run.
Mm-hmm.
It's like all these guys, man, they can throw and they can run. Obviously, throw first, run second, but these guys are kind of that, like Russell Wilson and Deshaun kind of changed that. They were like Vic and Donovan McNabb and Culpepper were kind of like the originals that did both. Vic was more of a scrambler than a passer, though. So that was kind of different where Lamar Jackson takes after that, where he's more of a runner. He's more of just a playmaker than just a quarterback. He's like everything.
Mm-hmm.
Where Cam Newton, his rookie, like when he won MVP, he was running the ball a lot. Like, it's the new recipe, I feel like, because one, how quarterbacks are protected, and two, people see a quarterback running out, they're not going to fucking hit the guy.
No, they're afraid to. Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't want to get fined. You don't want to get tossed out of the game. You don't want to cost your team 15 yards and then it's a touchdown and you lose. Like, it's almost a shame how they've changed the rules so much to that, where it's kind of pussyfooting around, can't really hit a guy. But the way that you look at it, every sport is kind of made that rollover.
Well, that's all it is. It's either adapt or get left behind.
Well, it's all player safety. That's all.
Oh, yeah.
Ever since they found out what getting hit in the head does, these leagues would be stupid to not at least try to.
And it makes sense.
Save some of these guys' brains so they don't end up going off the deep end and doing something terrible.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense, protecting the quarterback first, because he's the guy who touches the ball every single play.
Well, and he's on every single commercial you see on TV of every team, like when they do the highlights, it's always quarterback, wide receiver. It's always Brady, Gronk, it's always Rodgers, Adams, it's always the same. The quarterback's you're the face of the franchise. Like, you got to be that squeaky clean guy. And if you're not, look what happened. Like, look what's happening in Houston, dude. It's a shitstorm down there right now.
Mm-hmm. And like in the beginning, it was kind of like, okay, what's going on here? But now, like, every day more and more come out. It's like you're saying yesterday. It's like, I wonder if it's turning like a Darren Sharper kind of thing, where there's something going on behind the scenes. And kind of like I mentioned yesterday too, it's like, I wonder if that's why he wanted out of Houston, because he finally caught wind of, oh shit, these people are coming after me. I need to get out of the city and try to sweep it under the rug and go start over fresh. But when you're that high profile of a person, you can't just walk away from that and expect it to go away.
Right. And that's one thing that I looked into I looked into the whole thing that's going on too, is that he doesn't have any criminal charges pending at this time. It's all civil suits at this time. But the NFL is investigating. That was reported yesterday by Ian Rappaport. He said that they are doing an investigation. The police aren't involved at this time. And
all it takes is one text conversation or
if he's guilty, video. I hope justice is served. I mean, that'd be the case with everybody. You do something wrong, dude, you should deal with what you did.
Yeah.
Take it like a man. Don't hide behind, I'm the quarterback of the Houston Texans. I was great at Clemson, won national championships. I'm in the public's eyes, I'm this God-loving, clean, squeaky guy, but then all of a sudden, where'd all this other stuff come from, Was this a different part of your life? Was this college? Was this – who knows? And no one really knows enough, and people aren't really talking about – and I'm sure you won't hear anything about it either. I'm sure it'll all be very brief, under the rug type of,
kind of like the whole,
as long as it's civil. If once it becomes criminal, then it'll be ESPN Sports Center headline every single day. But until it becomes criminal, I don't think you're going to really hear nothing about it.
No. Kind of like with the whole Crystalia thing too. It was just all these accusations came out, and then he went quiet, and now he's back. And from what it sounds like, he's not going to jail or anything. At least he said he's like, I don't have to worry about that. So, and that's probably all it came down to too, is a bunch of civil lawsuits where he's just like, all right, you want
You
money?
fucked up.
Or
Here you
yeah,
go.
if he did fuck up, obviously he
Well,
deserves to
because
pay
clearly
his
he
time
did,
or whatever.
because you don't just agree to pay someone cash if you didn't do something wrong. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? Like, that's the first thing that people try to do, is just pay someone off and just say, hey, keep your mouth shut for forever. Here's $1 million, or
Yeah,
whatever the case may be.
the
You don't
people who
just go
fight
ahead
it,
and do that
yeah.
and say, oh, I didn't do anything, but I'm just gonna fold over. And these people
What's
who
more
aren't guilty, they
respectable is the
fight it to the
people who have
teeth.
millions, but they fight it.
Oh, absolutely. Like, look at Lance Armstrong, dude. He fought for so long until it got to the point where, why is he the only one getting in trouble when you look at the list of all the bikers and it's like you got to go to 30th place to find the first guy that's not doping?
Yeah,
It's just like, why is he the only one that's got to take the downfall? Because he's the
yeah.
big name. They always go for the biggest fish in the pond
Hmm.
because that scares everybody else.
Pretty much. Yeah. I don't know. Is there any? I mean, we could circle back to some of these topics. I know today was kind of we talked about basically every sport except for baseball, but
Yeah. Who cares about baseball?
yeah,
It's been
but
going on since the 1600s.
it's America's pastime for a reason because it's fucking been around
In
forever.
the past, and it's in
Yeah.
the past. No one wants to sit 3 hours and fucking torch themselves for $9 beers in the stands for what?
To watch a 1-0 game
To watch a 1-0 game, exactly.
in the 11th inning.
No one wants to deal with that. Everybody'd rather I'd rather sit at home and watch a tennis match.
Or just sit at home and watch
It's more
baseball. Where,
action, dude. It's more
yeah,
action.
yeah,
Baseball's too slow. They got to speed it up. Like, whether they do what they do, like when you play MLB, like on like video games, you can change the rules to where the count is random every time you go up to the plate, where it's either you got two balls on you and a strike, or it's, granted, that's not fair to the person going up to the plate, but it is a way to speed it up a little bit.
yeah.
Or
Well,
you make it 7 inning game instead of 9.
I like the way they did it too with extra innings. Is they put a guy at
Runner on
second
second,
base. Yeah,
yeah, to make it go quicker.
yeah,
Which, why don't you just start every inning with a guy on second base? Last out, start on second. It'd be more action, more scoring, more.
hmm
Like, baseball's just so boring.
yeah,
Especially if you got a pitcher striking everyone out. You ain't seeing people hit the ball. It's like, why the fuck did I come?
yeah. Exactly.
Like, people come to catch foul balls, home run balls. Like, people don't go there to sit there and watch a pitch throw a perfect game and just be like, oh, cool, I didn't get to see the ball hit one time today.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
obviously, if that's your team's pitcher, then great. But, like, you got to
yeah,
think of both sides of that. It's like the whole NBA thing with the guys sitting out games and shit. It's like people buying tickets to come see a guy playing and
hmm
he sits. That's life, man.
yeah. And I don't get that, especially this year too. With like, and obviously, like nobody knows anything as far as what it is. He just says personal matter, but like Kyrie Irving, how he's missed games a handful of times this year because he's always out for personal matters. Otherwise, he's like a big advocate for like the equality and social justice and stuff, which is good. But so is like LeBron James and all these other people, and they still play every game. They're not taking time away from because at the end of the day, yeah, it's just they look at it as, oh, it's just basketball. There's more important things in life, but at the same time, it's just a job. You don't see people working 9 to 5 jobs that, oh, I'm not going to come to work for 2 weeks. I'm going to go be an advocate for social justice. No, you're going to lose your job. So how do these guys who get these professional athletes get a green light to, oh yeah, like you're good, take 2 weeks off. It's like to go do whatever when regular 9 to 5 people don't have that.
Well, because the NBA is a player-ran league, the owners don't fucking mean anything. It's the players control that whole entire league.
Yeah.
So I could see why that works that way. But, like, flip side, you You look at it like NHL game, like the NHL side. You have a guy that sits out a game, and somebody fills in your spot and scores 2 goals. You might not have your spot back ever, bud. Like
Yeah.
that might be the end of your ride. Like where the NBA guys, like you said, guys can fucking do whatever they want and get away with it because they have the power and they know, which is kind of cool to see, like a player ran league where it's fun. They make it fun. They interact with the player, like the fans, they do a whole bunch of different shit, which is outside of like what all the other leagues do, which makes it different. Like it's becoming more cool
Mhm.
instead of like a sport. It's almost like it's more entertainment than a sport.
Yeah.
Like sports is entertainment, but people like to watch sports because they like to see people battle like gladiator style, where people are fully trying to fucking take somebody's head off, or Tiger Woods, for example, trying to go win another tournament. Like people love to see people at their best competing against other people trying at their best. And in basketball, you just don't get that every night because if you want to sit out because you got a tummy ache, oh, okay, sit out the game.
Mhm.
Where every other sport, you'd lose your job
Yeah.
because somebody else wants it. Somebody else wants it more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a really interesting dynamic with how the NBA is like works and fluctuates compared to every other sport because of that reason where the players really got the owner of the league by the balls. Whatever they say kind of happens.
Mhm.
Where every other sport it's the opposite. It's what commissioner says. You either step in line or you're done.
Mhm. Yeah, it's interesting to see both sides of that. Like you said, with NBA being kind of a player-run league, and then like baseball and football and even like hockey kind of being more like, here's the rules, either follow them or somebody else for cheaper or who
Will do
wants
it.
it more will do it. Um, so it's kind of it'll be nice to see over the next 5 to 10 years if the NBA kind of leans back more into like organized, or if like the NFL and these other sides turn more to player run leagues. It'll be kind of nice. It's nice to see both sides, because then you could see, okay, this one side's shit, this other side's better, or vice versa. And hopefully that change is made to either give, obviously giving players more jurisdiction and more freedom and more control is better. But if you give them too much control, then you have guys taking nights off and you have whatever.
Right.
As a
That
spectator, it becomes more boring, or like you said, a guy, oh, I finally get to go to my first Lakers game. Oh, LeBron's sitting out. Like,
it's like people fly all the way from other countries to see him play, and then he
hmm
doesn't. Like, and the NFL is almost kind of leaning going towards that same model that the NBA followed was these super teams. Like it almost seemed like the Patriots set that motto for fucking winning so many times and just being there so many times to where other teams are like, okay, we got to build a team for 10 consecutive years to try to do this because that's like the motto that's been set. And like Tampa built a super team, Chiefs built a super team, Ravens, they're building a super team. Like Patriots this year, they're building a super team. Like
Rams.
that's kind of the way it's going to be, where it's going to be like the NFL, where the NBA, where 5, 10 teams are good and the rest is shit.
hmm
And that's what you're kind of getting due to guys taking less to play with buddies, to be on a good team, to it's all the price of winning. And how bad do you want? Would you rather win and make $1 million? Would you rather lose every single game and make 15?
hmm Well,
Like,
that's a big thing too, as far as how a lot of these players are becoming influencers, and where they own multiple businesses. They have contracts with Nike and Adidas and Gatorade and all this and that. It comes to the point where you're like, oh shit, I don't need money from football anymore. So then that's where they're like, okay, yeah, like Tom Brady. He he could literally be like, all right, if you have to pay me a penny a year, than
Well,
pay
his
me to
wife
finish a
makes
year.
5 times what he makes.
Oh yeah,
So
that
he
too.
wouldn't even have to take a cent and he'd be just fine. But that's like a lot of these athletes, same JJ Watt, how much he's got in sponsorships, dude. Subway, all those. And then the TV show that he does with his brothers. And how much money is that, dude? Like
Hmm.
Deshaun Watson, tomato or Campbell's Chunky Soup, the deal that he did, he got like $100 million for those commercials. Like, you don't need football money, dude.
No.
The only reason that they take it is because I feel like it's almost like for me fucking beating my body, I deserve this. Like
Yeah.
for me potentially not being able to walk when I'm 40 years old, to have money to get new knees and do all that stuff, because as far as like the NFL insurance policy and shit goes, it's such a joke. Once you're done, they like disregard you like you've never played in the league. And who are you, dude? Why do you expect anything from us? Like,
Yeah.
it's like, dude, I just killed my body for you. Like,
Yeah.
and
And
that's
then
where
that's why
the whole
that's
money thing, I
then
just,
they can afford to stick millions in their bodies to keep them going.
well, like LeBron, he spends $3 million a year, dude, on his body. Like
Hmm.
Brady, same thing. And why are they the greats? It's because they take care of themselves, dude. Other people don't do that shit.
No,
Like,
they need the
as
they need
as
the houses
crazy
and the
as you'd
cars
like to
and
think that athletes are that prototype, the working out all the time in the gym, eating healthy, half of them probably fucking party their ass off.
hmm.
Like, half of them probably just spend their money. Don't get me wrong, there's probably a lot that do are doing the right thing all the time, but that window is so small, especially in the NFL. You got to be one of those 22 guys or ride the pine, bud.
Yeah. Even like Rogers and even some other guys like they play golf. If they're not playing football, they're playing golf.
Well, Rogers this last year, he said he started meditating and doing yoga and doing
that that was his
rebuilding
big
his
thing this year.
rebuilding his knee, because he said that was his most
When he got fucked up against
questionable, worried about
Chicago.
thing was his stepping into that leg again and throwing how he used to throw. And he said he went out this year and did it, and everything felt good. And MVP season when you're not out there playing scared.
Yeah,
Like you can't be out there playing scared, otherwise you're gonna get like if you're worried
you're gonna
about
get hurt
getting
worse.
injured or getting hurt, you're gonna get hurt, and it's
Hmm.
probably gonna be a bad one. Like I remember growing up, there was a kid that I played hockey with. He was one of the bigger kids, but he was always so worried about getting hurt. I can't tell you how many times he broke his collarbones, both of them. Just getting, and it's just like if you have that mindset of, oh, I'm gonna get hurt, you're gonna get hurt. Like that should be a last. If you get hurt doing what you love to do, that's part of the price you pay.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, that's why they get paid that amount of money because they deserve it in a lot of ways. In some way, some people look at it as, oh, they just throw a ball or they just hit a puck or they just shoot a ball. Like,
so you try to do it.
yeah, you
Like,
because you well, and that's the thing too is not everybody understands. They watch them for 1 hour on a TV and they're like, really, that's it? They're like, that's just 2% of what they do. The other 98% that they do off camera is what allows them to do what they do on a TV screen.
oh, absolutely, and like especially hockey. Like, I know you've never played, but like, how hard of a sport that is to be so good at, and then you just watch these guys on TV, and to think every one of them is the greatest player walking the planet playing the sport. That's just mind blowing. To like football, you got some guys that squeak through that shouldn't be there, or the guys that have a great tryout and fucking make it. Where hockey, you really don't have that. Like hockey is one of those sports where none of the shit people really squeak through and get a chance. It's kind of like you're either good or you're not.
Hmm.
And it's plain as you're either top 20 or you're not. And that's kind of where it lies. Where other sports, you got the ups and the downs, where people are dominant for 3 years. Well, in the NFL, it almost seems like every time someone's up for a contract year, they have a fucking all-time high, personal high year, because obviously they're trying to make more money,
Yeah.
so they're going to try a little bit harder. Like next year's off season, salary cap going up for the NFL because they're $110 million deal, whatever, TV deal. It's like people are taking 1-year deals now for next year when they're going to get fucking paid.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
Well, that's a
Juju.
big thing too. Like you said, with kind of players that squeak through in the NFL, I feel like that's a lot in part to because the NBA has the G League, the NHL has their lower leagues, the MLB has their lower leagues. The NFL's it. Lower than that, you're playing
XFL or the
XFL,
CFL.
CFL, arena football. Otherwise, there's now
I don't
that
even think arena exists
that
anymore.
it still does, like
Does
the
it?
like Green Bay Blizzard and stuff like that. I know that's the one in our area, but it's like smaller leagues. It's smaller than like the CFL and the XFL. That's a step down from that. That's like a step above semi-pro. Like kind of like what you did for hockey. Like arena football would be slightly above that,
Right.
and then you're finally into like the XFL or like the fan-controlled football league now with like Manziel and Josh Gordon's in it now and shit.
Right.
Um, yeah, like, and those are all football, but they're none of them are in affiliation with the NFL. They're their own entity. Where
Which
in
they
the
should be.
NFL, yeah, or the NFL should have some kind of like call up league where you have teams that play at a lower level, guys that are in college that went undrafted, or guys that got cut and never found a team again. Like they need a lot of them just fell off the face of the earth, and now they're like that's got to be hard for those guys too. You get a like $2 million contract and then you're cut. So it's like you start to live this luxury lifestyle of, oh shit, I have money, and all of a sudden it gets taken away from you. Whereas guys that have been in the league for 10, 20 years, they've learned how to put their eggs in more than one basket and how to manage their money, where they could step away from whatever sport they're playing and be able to live the rest of their life worry free. These guys that only have been in the league for 1 to maybe 3 years and then all of a sudden they're out, like that shit's got to be tough to find
Well,
something else.
well, and that's why you look at 80% of athletes end up going broke is because of that. You used to living spending $2,000 a week, $2,000 a week. Those paychecks stop coming, and you're still spending $2,000 a week.
Yeah,
Your money's gonna go, and that's why the like an essential of like people who are wealthy is they make their money work for them, like sponsorships, investing, owning other companies, all this other type of stuff. That's why, like Floyd Mayweather, dude, how much money that fucker spends. That's why he's still fighting because he needs more money, dude. Because he keeps spending it all. It's like
yeah.
he fights whenever he needs more money, and it's like he's a brilliant guy for doing it. Like props to him. He's managed to live that lifestyle for how long, but it's just like there comes a point where you're not going to be able to fight for forever, and you're
Yeah,
still going to have all those expenses going out.
but he's got his Mayweather, what is it, Mayweather Enterprise or whatever. He
Does
he
he?
had, yeah, he has what's it called? It's basically a business umbrella where he kind of owns a bunch of different shit.
Mm.
But like you said, he does spend a lot of his money. Like he like I mean, good for
Like he
him.
carries a
Like
million
he
cash on him at all times. Like
yeah
what a nut.
yeah. Which yeah, he spent a lot of his money, but at the same time, I feel like
For
he
how
hasn't
much he's making.
for how much he's making with all of his sponsors and his other
I
shit that
wonder
he
if
oversees.
I literally wonder if online it says anywhere how much Floyd spends a day.
I'm sure he'll tell you one day when he's like, "Oh, he bought like 3 cars and he spent X amount of money in one day."
Oh my god, shut up. He lights cigars. He burns $100 bills to light his cigars.
What the fuck?
Dude's a fucking baller. So on average, he spends between $10,000 and $49,000 a week.
Not bad.
So
Safe.
that's almost $200K a month.
He spends in a week what some people make in a year.
Yeah, legit. And some of the crazy shit he's bought, like he just bought a 100-foot yacht, dude. He bought an $18 million watch. Like, dude, it's crazy. Oh my God. Here we go. Notorious for his exorbitant spending sprees and reckless financial behavior. Mayweather reportedly spends up to $75 million on average a year.
Huh.
He said it says in 1 week he dropped $6.5 million on 2 Bugatti sports cars and $18 million on a watch. So he just dropped $40 million in 1 week for 2 cars and a watch.
That's the thing is, it's funny that's crazy money to us, but it's like us going out and like getting a new game system or a new like just a new piece of equipment or like something nice for ourselves. That's all he's doing. Like that money figure, the amount of money isn't something that he scoffs at, and he's like, "Ooh, that's a little too much." He's just like, okay." Like,
If I got to fight again for another $300 million, all right, let's do it.
yeah.
I'll go 51-0.
Obviously, like boxing is a tough sport. Like it takes a lot of years of practice and perfecting it, but he he's smart and he did it the right way, especially coming in when he did, where he was in a league of his own, where nobody aside from Pacquiao was really his only competition to fight.
Well, yeah, dude, you look at Mayweather's career in the beginning, he was a savage, attacking, putting guys down. And then all of a sudden he learned or figured out these fuckers don't hit me. They ain't going to win.
Yeah,
So he's all defense, dude. He will out defense, and that's why he doesn't get hit, dude. Like Rogan's talked about this multiple times. In all of his like 50 fights, dude, he's been hit maybe 5 good times total. Like some guys get hit 30, 50 times like that in one fight. Like
yeah.
he doesn't get touched. He doesn't get hurt, and that's why he's still fighting at this age
Hmm.
where
That's what's nice for him. He doesn't have to worry about the CTE and the repercussions of fighting or being a professional
no, he
athlete.
just has to worry about all that pressure of being the greatest boxer of all time if he
Yeah,
loses. Especially like this Logan Paul fighter or whoever, whichever one he's fighting. If he loses, dude,
yeah. To a YouTuber.
like if he, dude, like, but think about it. All it takes is one good place punch, and you can knock anybody out, dude.
Oh yeah, I could knock him out if I get one good swing.
If he just put his hands down and just sat there, yeah, like,
Yeah, yeah. You gotta put him in a
like
straitjacket.
Anderson Silva used to do. I remember him fighting in the UFC.
Oh yeah,
Have his hands by his side and fucking just dodging punches.
oh yeah. It takes a lot less effort to dodge a punch than to throw one.
Throw one. Yep, a lot less energy.
Yeah, that's another sport. It's awesome to see too, like Amanda Nunes on the women's side, how dominant she's been as
She's
far
gonna
as
get beat. I'm
taking out
calling
route.
it.
Well, eventually, yeah.
Hold on, I gotta find out this chick's name. Rogan just had her on recently. She's the first female boxer in the United States to win the Olympics twice. Under 20 years old. She's so young, dude. Her name's Clarissa Shields. She's the best women's boxer of all time, and she's like jumping into the UFC now because she still boxes for like world championships and shit. But she's like, as far as boxing, I've already accomplished everything I have to. As far as boxing goes, she's like, I've been the best since I've been 15 years old. No one's. She used to fight grown men, dude, when she was 15 years old, and would fucking pummel these guys. Like, that's insane. And she just talks about how she wants to get into MMA, UFC, because first, there's more money to be made
Oh
doing
yeah,
that. And second, she wants to be the best. She wants to be the best at both. And it's just like, props to you. If you're going to fucking go ahead and get it, go get it.
yeah.
Like,
You know that's one sport that there's never really been a lapse of good athletes because you had like
Well,
Cormier, your Silva, and then you
your
have
window is 2 years, 3 years,
yeah for some of them.
because you only fight 1, 2, 3, 4 times max a year, and you lose twice in the UFC and you're done. Which
Pretty
is
much.
why they keep it so competitive, is because, or maybe is it 3 losses, but once you lose a certain amount of times, you're out of the UFC, because it's the top of the top fighting. Like you have to go to
Well,
like
you
Bellator
you're still in the
and
UFC.
work
You
your
just lose your rank because there's some guys who are like 22-7 and 24-8 and
right,
stuff.
but that's what I mean. Like they're in the UFC and then they lose and then they drop out of it and they have to work their way back up to
Well, because there's a
that
content.
spot.
Well, there's a contender league, so you have like your champion, and then there's ranks. I think it goes 1 through 15. That's like UFC, and then under that you have another league under that that's still technically UFC, even though you never hear of them. They're basically fighting. They're all non-ranks fighting to get into that top 15, and then
Right.
below, and then you get below that, and you get into like Bellator and like stuff like
The
that.
PFL and
Yeah.
yeah, all these other. But that's what I mean. Like you lose a championship fight, you're going back down, and you got to win 2, 3, 4 fights before you can even have that chance again. If you
Hmm.
get that chance again, because like, and especially if you get fucked up, like that could be it, man. Like one fight could be your last fight.
Hmm. Well,
Because
that's the
people
thing
have
too. Is
died.
that's the thing too is you're people that are higher than you aren't going to call you out. You have to be the lower guy and say, "Hey, I want to fight you." So to put in that work and put in that effort to say, "I'm ranked number 5. I want to take on rank number 2 to move up," or the one rank right below the champion or whatever it might be. Like that's what's crazy about that sport is that the champs just sit there. They're like, "I'm just sitting here protecting my title. Whoever wants to challenge me can challenge me." Somebody could win. Somebody could win a belt, and nobody could ever want to challenge them again. It's
Right.
somebody. It's somebody below them that's like, I want to take. I want to get a chance at that belt. The champ isn't up there saying, I want to fight number 7. I want to fight number 4. I want to fight that guy. I want to fight this guy. Come try to take my belt. No, they sit there and wait for somebody to say, hey, I want to come fight you.
Because everybody's always challenging those top guys because everybody wants to be the champion.
Hmm.
That's like Khabib. He's the champion, and I guess Dana's trying to get him to come out of retirement to win
He
it
just
one more
he just
weight class.
announced he just announced this week that he's done.
Officially,
Dana, yeah, he came out and said that he was done. Yeah, because like you said, they're having that. They've had multiple conversations because Dana wanted to try to get him back in for another fight, but then Dana said, "Well, after I can't remember what it was on.
because
Either
Cormier, whoever won that, right, or what's his name, Dustin Poirier,
Poirier, yeah,
yeah, the one that beat McGregor,
yeah.
he wanted to fight Khabib for the championship,
Oh, okay.
but that obviously that ain't gonna happen anymore.
No, I think that uh, there'll be a third fight between Poirier and McGregor again because they're one and one, so they get. I don't know if that'll be the next fight for McGregor. That'll be McGregor's next fight. I don't know if that'll be Poirier's next fight.
See the way that Rogan, because he had Poirier on after he won and was talking about it. McGregor can't fight him again right away because of how he lost. He's got to fight another fight, and I forgot who they were talking about, but they both are going to fight somebody else before they think about doing a third.
That
And
makes
they're
sense.
thinking about doing the third over in Europe in a soccer stadium full of people. Like, how cool would that be?
Yeah.
Outside, but that's the thing.
Even what was it? I can't remember when it is. It's coming up soon. UFC's um back in Jacksonville for their first like UFC 261. Um when is it gonna be? April 24th. They're having Usman versus Masvidal. They're finally getting back into the arena, like, because otherwise it's been all like on Fight Island or just like no spectators. But April 24th in Jacksonville is going to be finally when because Florida don't really have any restrictions
Yeah,
along with
they never
Texas.
really had any the whole
No,
time.
same thing with Texas.
Yeah, they just opened up because originally he tried getting it in Texas, but Texas wouldn't let him fill the full stadium because I forgot. There's like 40,000 that they're letting go to the Texas Rangers opening day, which is like 70 or 80% full capacity. Like they're not full blown going, but they're doing them at like 80%, like the majority of people can go. And because he couldn't get a full arena, he moved it to Jacksonville to where obviously it's about the money.
Yeah.
He's got to make money too because how much he's dishing out to all these guys for
Oh
fighting.
yeah. It's gotta be stressful. As fun as it like looks to be like Dana White, that's just gotta be stressful. The fucking
Fuck being a boss like that, dude. So many headaches.
well,
And you got to
especially
deal with
too.
all the fighters too. Like if a fighter says, "Oh fuck you, I don't want to fight for a year,"
Yeah,
and you got to try to get.
you
You
gotta
got to
deal with
find somebody else to.
you gotta deal with multiple weight classes, men and women.
Yep.
Like,
All over the world, all these different languages,
hmm
like, and you're not talking to them. You're talking to their agent.
hmm yeah.
Yeah, crazy world of sports.
Look at almost 2.5 hours. I always have a timer going just out of curiosity, and then I like timestamp stuff too. But um,
Yeah, is there any breaking news going on right now?
free agency maybe for football.
A 14th lawsuit has came out today, and this person is calling him a serial predator, alleging sexual assault and inappropriate contact. It's like the same thing as Antonio Brown did, dude. What an idiot. Yeah, I'm just reading to see if Will Fuller came out and said, I don't know any of the specifics about what's going on. I've been talking to him. To me, it seems like his head is on straight. I'm just looking forward and seeing where everything goes. Hopefully, he's okay. So that kind of sounds like he knows about some shit that's going on, and
Yeah,
hopefully, he makes it out okay on the other side of it.
yeah. The fact that he didn't give like a statement trying to like give him an alibi or like basically say he's in his corner. You know what I mean? To like, because nobody's come out and said, aside from his agent and his like attorney who's representing him or whatever. Obviously, they're gonna say, "Oh, he would never do anything like this," because that's their job to make him look good. But aside from that, nobody else has really come out and said, "Oh, I've been with him. He's never done this and that or whatever." So it's just like because nobody wants to get thrown under the bus with him, so nobody's coming out and sticking out their neck for him.
And all of these are happening at a fucking spa, dude. Like all of these are happening with spas and masseuse people.
Hmm.
Of him just rolling over and fucking like grabbing their hands and fucking like touching them and stuff.
Again,
And then
professional
and
fucking
then they
quarterback
do
in
have
the
a
NFL.
text message. They do have a text message from him, and he replied to this chick after he did it, and he says, I know you have a career and a reputation, and I know you would hate for someone to mess with yours, just like I don't want you messing with mine. He's
Like I,
screwed, bro.
yeah, like I
Like if
said,
they got text messages, there's smoke. There
as
ain't
soon
no,
as
it
as
ain't
soon
all
as the first
smoke.
text message or the first picture, the first video comes out, he's fucked. And especially now that there's 14 women, there's
Yeah, and
one
these are all the dates
one if not
because
multiple
they have all the dates from when all these came. March 30th, 2020, April 19th, 2020, June 2nd, 2020, August 17th, 2020, July 2020, July 15th, 2020, August 2nd, 2020, August 28th, 2020,
this is all recent.
several encounters between September 9th and October 2020, September 24th, November 2nd, December 28th, January 21st, 21, March 5th, 21.
So he just fucking does his shit, and then in fear of getting caught, he moves on to another girl.
Yeah, this last one says a massage therapy business in Georgia. The plaintiff is a licensed massage therapist who owns her own business. Watson contacted her on Instagram about a $55 discounted massage. During the massage, Watson was like, fucking my groin area, all this stuff. And he exposed himself to her and like grabbed her hand and like touched him. And then she fucking like left in a panic.
Hmm.
It's like all of this is the same thing, dude. Like literally the same. Whatever issue he's got with that, that's what he does. He just exposes himself to people. Let's have a hammer. Even though it's not funny to joke around, but that'd be a little funny. Packers news. Packers did not alter Rodgers' contract. They paid him $6.8 million on Friday for a roster bonus instead of converting it into a signing bonus, which would have saved the Packers $5.5 million.
So that means they're not going out in free agency anymore if they're not trying to make space.
Rodgers counts on their roster through 23. He's a Packer.
Yeah, I kind of figured that. Uh, at this point, there's nobody really left going after anyway. Well, I shouldn't say that. There are people, but not that the Packers need. Mostly like quarterbacks and
We need a corner, dude.
draft, hopefully. Receivers and cornerbacks.
Josh Gordon hauls in Hail Mary to win
Yeah,
FCF game.
for the Zappers.
I still don't understand that whole thing, dude. Why do you suspend a guy from smoking a little weed, dude?
Was it
Especially a
just
wide receiver. Yeah,
was
that's
it just
just
weed?
weed. Just weed, yeah. Because there's a certain amount of milligrams that they're allowed to have in their bloodstream, like when they take a test. And he's just had more than that every single time. He's just basically like, I don't give a fuck, dude. I'm going to smoke weed and let me ball out and catch 20 touchdowns. Like, dude was amazing.
Yeah, he was.
Like, he was a generational wide receiver, potentially. Because he had how many years in a row where he was over 1,000 yards? Like, he did so good.
He
But
kind
yeah,
he kind of reminds me of DK Metcalf, just like that big
yeah,
thick ass
same
receiver.
style. Yep, same style. Jets news: they're keeping Sam Darnold, and they expect him to be the starter.
So they're not going to have Zach Wilson.
Um, Publicly, the Jets have been non-committal, saying they're opening to listening to trade inquiries. In fact, several teams have called, but they hold the number 2 pick, where it says, I don't get that. In the beginning of the article, it says Sam Darnold is expected to return as a starter, and then it says BYU Zach Wilson is thought to be the leading contender. So basically, they're blowing smoke, saying it's going to be a QB competition,
Well, it's all
probably.
yeah, it's all talk of like it's like a kid. You tell a kid, no, you can't have any cookies. It's gonna make them want cookies more. So, no, you guys can't have Sam Darnold. We're keeping him as our QB and trying to spark a team to come after him. Apparently, even though I don't really see a team going after Sam Darnold.
That's pretty crazy. I didn't know this. NCAA tournament players are protesting the NCAA president. There's been a handful of top guys from top teams who are pushing to meet this guy. I guess the guy said that he'd meet him in a meeting room and like have a meeting, a discussion. He blew him off. So the players have been like saying like, what the fuck? And the NCAA, they're hoping that the changing rules on regarding name, image, likeness rights, fucking how you're able to have an agent open and like endorsements, how they can do appearances, and just like basically they want to get paid.
Hmm.
And they want to get paid now. And it's pretty crazy. Like some of the top players from Big Ten, especially, are calling for change like right now. And it needs to happen, dude. It's over. It's so overdone.
That's what's tough for college athletes is they don't have anybody representing them to be able to go fight to go. They don't have an agent to go negotiate. They don't have. All they have is their name and their their school to basically back them up and say, yeah, you guys should get paid. Because then, if the players are getting paid, then the universities are getting more money too.
Oh yeah, dude. In news about how we talked about the Knicks, guess who they're about to get now too?
Who
Victor Oladipo.
he just got traded to Houston,
Yep.
but also Houston
They're
is a
progressing
dumpster
on
fire.
several fronts to trade Oladipo because they're terrible. And Miami and the Knicks are the two teams that are in the running right now for him. It's gonna be the Knicks. They'll find the
Well,
money.
Houston's fucking they just snapped a 20-game losing streak last night.
Yeah, and he's averaged 21 points in his 20 games he's been there.
Yeah, he's good. He's always been a number a starter.
And he's in the final season of his 4-year, $85 million contract. Like, what kind of money is that, dude? 85 mil. Give me 3,
Yeah.
and I'd retire today. 3 million is definitely enough money to live the rest of your life comfortably.
Oh yeah. But yeah, if you spend $50,000 a year, $50,000 a year for the rest of your life, easy.
Well, not just that. I'm just saying, with that chunk of cash, you invest. You buy a couple companies that are making you cash. You grow that. You grow your wealth from the 3 million that you got to whatever. Like if I had that much money, I'd probably buy a whole bunch of rental properties and rent them out and just collect cash, spend it. Yeah.
I'm good to wrap it up if you are.
Yeah, time seems to fly when
Yeah.
I didn't realize that much time went by. Like that's
No,
crazy.
yeah, yeah, it's especially talking about stuff that like this, you know a lot about it. You just keep one topic to the next, and then it's like, oh, circle back to this one, and then it's like, oh yeah, well, what about this guy? Oh yeah, that team. Oh yeah, it's just like, and all of a sudden 2.5 hours go by.
Right. Like I said, dude, anytime you want to have me on, talk about sports or whatever,
Yeah, for
let me
sure.
know. I'm fully down. I love that. Was fun to literally just sit and bullshit and ramble and
Yeah, I definitely. Like I said, I do like well, for the past month, like once a week, I've been doing like a sports episode. So
because
I'll
we could do
definitely
another one after the Sweet 16's over.
do a full recap of everything. Yeah.
Do a full recap of the 16, see if our predictions were right, and then break down the 8 to the again, and then just could we go over new things in the NFL, new things in other sports, because every season's kind of coming up on playoff time, like that are still going. Masters is coming up. Like there's kind of a lot going on right now. NBA is kind of whatever because that doesn't really matter till playoff starts.
No, yeah, they just got past the All-Star break, so they're only a little past halfway right now.
But it's like more people should be signed in the NFL by next week. Trades, stuff like that. So
And then the draft is only 3-4 weeks away. And then next
yeah,
thing you
dude.
know, it's hockey and NBA playoffs, and then baseball gets started, which,
And then football starts
yeah,
because they're saying they ain't gonna have like no off season this year.
for football.
Yeah, because they're going after this season. They're supposed to be going to the 17 games,
Hmm.
and then yeah, they're talking about how this like off season there ain't really gonna be one because of all these states having different COVID laws and all of this stuff where the NFL still has to provide. Like the NFL's policy on COVID is overrides these states' rules. Which is crazy to think that the NFL is like a government powerhouse.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, it goes to show again how money talks. They're just like, all right, here's some stacks. We're gonna do our own thing.
Yep. Yeah, dude. I think we should wrap her up then, eh?
Yeah. I suppose I'll do my introduction here at the end, and then I'll just add at the beginning. So this is our sports insider. No, yeah, this is Austin. He's my brother-in-law. So and that you guys heard us talk about some sports and stuff. Bring him on in the future, and usually I do a lot of stuff by myself, but it's definitely nice to have somebody else to talk with. And moving forward, we'll definitely do a lot more stuff just because the sports world's a big world and there's breaking news every single day where we could literally come on here and talk for an hour every day about what's new today. So
Yeah, we really
there's al-
could.
there's always something to talk about. So but yeah, fun talking with you and have
Well,
you on
thanks for
again.
having me, and I'm glad to be back.
Yeah,
Hit me up whenever you need me.
sounds good, man.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.